They've taken care of Florida, and now they go to Provo, very tough place to play, and they take care of BYU 86-83. Utah hoops back at it coming up this weekend. A little bit of a break for Alex Jensen's team. We're inching closer and closer to March. Obviously, this is the last week of January, so we'll kind of lean into our college basketball coverage a little bit more. Pretty winnable game coming up for Utah basketball. Oklahoma State at home, and then it's Arizona State at home. So a couple of teams that are kind of in the mid-range of the Big 12 will be here in Salt Lake in the next week for Alex Jensen's team to play. And then it's on the road at Kansas. BYU is going to take off to Kansas right now. I think, on paper, BYU's talent is undeniable. If you look at the landscape of the Big 12 right now, they might be the fifth or the sixth best team. That's just how good the conference is. BYU at this point is lacking one thing, and that is a signature win. The best teams they've played, it's gone the wrong way. The best win they have on the season right now is probably Wisconsin. A couple months ago now. In conference play, they lost to Tech on the road. Tech's a very good team. And, of course, losing to Arizona, the number one team in the country. The mad comeback back in Boston against UConn fell short, but they'll have a chance for that signature win coming up on Saturday at Kansas. So college basketball kind of taking full steam at this point. The Utah Jazz are back at it tonight with a late game. And it's actually nationally televised. If I remember, I think this is the only one. Maybe there's a couple of others, but NBC has the Clippers and the Jazz tonight at the Delta Center. Tip-off at 8 o'clock from the Delta Center. So a late tip for the Jazz tonight. Lauri Markkanen actually is going to play. It was reported earlier that he would be out. No Keontae George, no Yusuf Nurkic, the owner of 3 straight triple-doubles, so some Jazz basketball. On the show today is the NBA trade deadline. It's right around the corner on February the 5th. What could be next? We'll get into some of that stuff as far as the Jazz go and the national landscape of pro basketball. The Rising Stars Challenge roster was released yesterday, right as we were signing off air. And no Ace Bailey. Kind of surprised about that. Too bad. I was hoping to see Ace there, but All-Star weekend right around the corner as well. Unexpected busy day in the world of pro football. Joe Brady has been promoted from the offensive coordinator to now Josh Allen's head coach. And Joe Brady was a play caller for Josh when he won league MVP, so why not keep that thing rolling? Mike McCarthy, a Pittsburgh boy at heart, was introduced as the Steelers head coach. Kevin Stefanski introduced as the Atlanta head coach. And, oh, by the way, there's a Super Bowl coming up on February the 8th, the Patriots and the Seahawks. According to an article I read earlier today, the most improbable Super Bowl according to the preseason odds in 50 years. The Seahawks continue to be a slight favorite in this game, but, of course, we are your home of the NFL in this market. You can hear the Super Bowl on this radio station. You can watch it on NBC coming up 4:30 on February the 8th. In the world of college football, kind of a surprise as Darian Mensah and Duke has settled their dispute, but settled it in a way that Mensah is still going to be able to transfer, even though he signed a contract with Duke. He's going to head to Miami, according to reports. So a little college football news on the station today as well. All right, first guest, NBA Daily Assist style. Zach Harper stops by. Zach also does a lot of draft stuff for the Athletics, so I want to kick the tires on A.J. DeBonsa, Darren Peterson, Cam Boozer, and some other prospects that Jazz fans might want to start watching as the Jazz will play themselves back into the lottery and then play their odds and hope that Lady Luck shines upon them. Richard Smith, Smitty, back on the show, live in studio for an entire hour today, starting at 3 o'clock. Our friend Andy Larson from the Salt Lake Tribune will join us. RSL has made some signings, and they released Ron Cruz today as well. And then Dave Fox, 2 Pelotons, 2 Emmys. Live in studio. I think we have 3 in-studio guests with Richard Smith, Andy Larson, and Dave Fox. Me, Spence Checketts, all of you, the great listeners. Hello, happy Tuesday. And that guy, Porter Larson, have you double and triple checked with Dave Fox to make sure he knows that he's on our radio show today?
Yeah, he knows. I'm going to have to check in with him, an hour out just to make sure he's getting his walk on, headed over to the studio. But fairly certain we have Dave Fox on the show today.
He's just such a diva. He's such a baby. He got mad at Porter that he forgot his last hit. Real quick, that was a hell of a college basketball game last night. Yep. Arizona, BYU. That was a lot of fun. What'd you think?
2 really, really good teams. Obviously, a bunch of NBA scouts in the building for good reason. Arizona looked to kind of handle BYU early, and then we saw, one of the reasons that I think BYU is going to be a team to look at in the tournament, which is just a lot of resolve and moxie, if you will, to get back in that game. Of course, they had a chance late, but again, Arizona hasn't lost a game this year for good reason. It's not only how good their players are, they're just such a well-oiled machine, a good unit. There's no grandstanding or showboating. They're just all business, and I think as of now, got to be the team you look at in March.
100%. Really well coached. A different schematic approach to playing offensive basketball, the most modern-day teams. So we'll get to it. A lot of basketball on the show today. Of course, the latest in the NFL and college football as well. Our first guest on a Tuesday will be Zach Harper before Zach stops by, courtesy of our good friends, your good friends too at Prize Picks. It's time now for your opening tip.
Welcome to The Drive with Spence Checketts on Utah's #1 sports talk. Now into the studios of ESPN 700 to set the scene for the show. The opening tip of The Drive is brought to you by Prize Picks. Use the code ESPN 700 with Prize Picks.
Big game is almost here, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. So close the season out right with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Find your community on Prize Picks with a new social feeds feature. You can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click. Copy lineups you like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You can even follow Prize Picks partners like us and tailor-fade our picks with just one click. Step number 1, download the Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup, because on Prize Picks, it is good to be right. All right, big-time college basketball atmosphere in Provo last night at the Marriott Center. The #1 team in the country, the Arizona Wildcats, were in town to take on Brigham Young, and your TV coverage was on Big Boy ESPN in prime time, so a lot of eyes on that game. Tommy Lloyd's team is deep and good and big and talented and physical, and man, can they guard. And for the first time, we saw BYU look pretty rattled, even though it was a home game, and even though BYU nearly pulled out that comeback at the end of the game. At the beginning, a lot of turnovers, a lot of rushed shots, and Arizona deserves the majority of the credit. That Braden Burries kid is a beast. Braden Burries, Jaden Bradley, that might be your best backcourt in the country, at least the best backcourt I've seen so far. Their best pro prospect is probably Koa Pete, who had a little bit of a quiet night. He had 10 points, 3 boards. But they've got size on the interior. And look, BYU bullied Utah in the paint and in the interior, but they could not hang with Arizona's bigs or Arizona's size, so much so that in the second half, Kevin Young changed his rotation and simply surrounded AJ with shooting. He sat Kebakeda for the second half, and he elected to essentially lean into the playmaking ability of AJ DeBonsa and surround him with perimeter shooters. Kennard Davis, who prior to the game last night was 4 of 28 from 3 over his last 32 attempts, went 5 of 8 from 3 and actually knocked down his final 5. It took Richie a minute to get going. Robert Wright III, as we've talked about, is tremendously skilled and a very good ball-in-hand lead guard, but he struggled with the size and physicality of Braden Burries and Jaden Bradley, so much so that he went 3 of 16 from the floor. Did have 5 assists, but 1 of 5 from 3, finished with 7 points. And AJ had 24 points, but it took 24 shots to get it. And he went 1 of 8 from 3. He was aggressive because he had to be. He got to the free throw line 16 times, had 5 assists, 4 boards. But when you look at the way Arizona plays basketball, it's pretty wild because it flies in the face of most modern analytics that want to lean into the three-point shot. Arizona took 12 three-pointers and scored 86 points. They took 32 free throws and knocked down 26. It's what they do. And the Burries kid and the Bradley kid are really dynamic in the mid-range, and they get to the bucket and they get fouled. And there was a really interesting soundbite during one of the early timeouts where a BYU assistant coach was yelling 2 things. It's the assistant coach that Kevin Young has put in charge of the defense. He said, transition defense and stop fouling, okay? because I know BYU fans always feel like everybody's against them. And so I see all these complaints about the refs because every time BYU plays a sport, it's always the ref's fault if BYU doesn't win. They were so undisciplined, BYU was, in closeouts and around the glass, and they got too handsy, and that led to the foul call, okay? In fact, the worst call of the game was down the stretch. That offensive foul was an awful call that went BYU's way and almost allowed them to come back and win it. Now, couple of different ways we could go here. It was early turnovers and bad shot selection, namely from Kennard Davis. I guess they're calling him Moo now, which I didn't know. He took 2 really ill-advised threes that led to runouts for Arizona on the other end, and Arizona's early run in the first half was a direct result of undisciplined, bad shot selection, and really bad turnovers. A couple from AJ, a couple from Kebakeda. Richie was pressing a little bit early, and Arizona is so disciplined in their ability just to stick to the game plan. They want to get out and run. They want to attack you. And they're just so big and physical in the paint where BYU was able to score against Utah last Saturday in the paint at will. They were missing layups. They weren't able really to get to the glass. And even when they were, Arizona's bigs were able to really push back by blocking shots, changing shots, and forcing a bunch of different turnovers. Now, BYU settled in the second half. They scored 52 points in the second half after scoring only 31 points in the first half. They outscored Arizona by 10 points in the second half and nearly came back to win it, but ultimately had to have almost everything go their way. And Arizona was the team that started to panic down the stretch as the crowd at the Marriott Center kind of started to get into it a little bit. And BYU nearly got that done. The defensive play by Braden Burries, the block shot on Robert Wright III, was a big boy, big-time college basketball defensive play because Braden Burries was actually on the other side of the floor, and his main coverage was Kennard Davis Jr. And Kennard Davis Jr. had knocked down 5 straight threes. So the final possession, when I watched it in real time, my first thought was, why isn't that AJ? Why didn't you get A.J. DeBonsa the ball for the final shot? Well, I went back and watched the replay, and the play was designed for A.J. It was a play that was designed for 2 options. The first option was A.J., okay? But Koa Pete, and Koa knows A.J. really well. They played against each other growing up in AU ball. They were on the same Team USA basketball team. Koa Pete did a great job of ball denying A.J. And you could tell that Tommy Lloyd had decided this final possession, we're going to let anybody else go besides DeBonsa. We are going to sell out to make sure he doesn't get the ball. So Kevin actually did dial up a play call for A.J. DeBonsa to get the final shot. Tommy Lloyd was ready for it, and he is a hell of a coach, as we all know around here. And so they forced the action for Robert Wright III, who was the second option, to go make a play. Now, here's the thing. He actually beat Jaden Bradley. It was a good move to the bucket. But what Braden Burries did, first of all, it was gutty because if it didn't work out, it would have cost them the game, period. He was on the other side of the floor, and he was guarding. His main cover was Kennard Davis Jr., who had knocked down 5 3-point shots. But when he saw Rob Wright beat Jaden Bradley and get into the lane, he came from the weak side, blocked the shot, but didn't just block the shot, maintained possession, and then BYU had to foul, and at that point the game was over. But, for all the conversation about the offense and scoring 86 points while only taking 12 threes, being able to get to the foul line, and on the other side, BYU's inability to just knock down shots. Rob Wright and AJ were combined 9 of 40. The rest of the team was combined 20 of 32. And 11 of 21 from 3. They got great production from the players outside of their 2 stars. But in a vacuum, one play stood out to me, and that was the weak side block made by the Braden Burries kid. And like I said, Braden Burries and Jaden Bradley might be the best backcourt in America. But a hell of a college basketball atmosphere in Provo. And BYU, at this point, their resume is only lacking one thing, and that is a signature win. They'll have an opportunity to get it coming up at Kansas on Saturday. We'll see if Darren Peterson plays for the Jayhawks, because that would be the Darren Peterson, A.J. DeBonsa showcase, and those are the 2 names right now in the mix for the number one pick. And if you're a Jazz fan, you got to start watching these prospects. But a great game last night. Arizona is all they're cut out to be, the number one team in the country. Tommy Lloyd is doing a hell of a job. All right, we'll talk more prospects, more NBA draft coming up on the other side. Zach Harper will be our first guest on a Tuesday. Smitty live in studio, Andy Larson live in studio, Dave Fox live in studio. Busy Tuesday show. Good to have you with us right here on ESPN 700. Well, this is a full circle moment if there ever has been one. We've got a new client on the show, so I'm just going to do the read and welcome in our next guest. Pitbull is taking over the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on June 3rd. Tune in weekdays at 1:30 this week for your chance to score a pair of tickets to the show. More details can be found on ESPN700sports.com. Hi, Zach.
Oh, my God. How excited are you?
Are you rolling into town for the show or not? Bottom line.
I'm absolutely going to come for this.
All right. Well, as a result of them now being a client, and apparently I promote Pitbull, then I'm going to go ahead and get us tickets. How many tickets should I get?
I mean, however many we can. Like, I'm not worried about. I'm not worried about that.
Okay.
As long as it's you and me. I don't know if Porter wants to go, but let's really have a night on the town.
Well, I mean, we're not just going to go. This is not a half-ass situation. If we're doing the Pitbull thing, Zach, we're all in.
Yes, absolutely. Should we get like bald caps and do like the whole like look?
Okay, well, since you brought it up, first of all, Porter, do you want to come to the Pitbull show with me and Zach Harper?
If Zach comes, I'm down.
Wait, what? What if he wasn't coming? What if it was just me?
Well,
no, never mind.
I feel like it's part of the not the bit, but I don't know that you're going to go to the Pitbull concert without me.
I did. No, it's fair. So since you brought it up, I have been asked by the promoter of the show to film a promotional video dressed as Pitbull and release on social media.
Oh my God!
It's not. I'm not doing it. I'm not.
What do you mean?
Well, if I do it, will you do it?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay, Porter.
We like stitch together, whatever kids do. I don't know.
Okay, Porter. Let Lund know that now it's not. And Zach's got a sizable social audience, so tell him Zach is on board now.
We can get some tickets moving.
My goodness. All right. All right. First things first. You got to chime in on what we were discussing during Crosstalk today. As you are probably aware, the most dishonest ecosystem in the world, dating apps. Fair to say?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Everybody's lying. Oh, nice picture from 2008. Good to meet you. That's not what you look like. But when it comes to height, when it comes to manipulating height, what's fair game? Because I have a couple of single friends that are shorter fellows, but lovely fellows, and they maintain that it's impossible to get a date because they're short, so they misrepresent their height on apps. What's fair game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the misrepresentation.
Yeah,
like it's gonna change things immediately if and when you meet. So why not just get it out there in the open? And then, like, I just think that's a dangerous game to play if you're actually looking for something.
So what if one is let's say 5'6", and has 5'9" on an app? What would you say to that?
Oh, I mean, you better be wearing some lifts when you roll through to that date.
Yeah.
That's a massive discrepancy. An inch, sure, but 3 inches of difference here. That's crazy. Yeah,
because they're really. I mean, ultimately, it should be a no-fly zone because everybody's lying. But there are very few things that are more disappointing than being fed a crock of BS and then showing up and being like, "Wait, am I going to spend an hour with this person?" It's a rough deal.
It's a monthly occurrence.
Oh dear. What's the hot app in LA these days?
Oh God, probably Raya, and I'm not on that.
Okay. All right.
That's the one where if you're looking to meet like a 25-year-old DJ from Australia, that's where you go.
Well, unaware. Okay, good knowledge. Yeah. Moving on, Zach. Wanted you to chime in on that before we get to the deal. We are now starting to lean into the space of trying to learn about some of these draft prospects because the Jazz are going to play themselves back into where they should, as you and I have talked about. And we have one in our backyard in A.J. DeBonce is playing for BYU, and a great college basketball game last night as Arizona was in town. But the debate at the top, at one point it felt like it was Darren Peterson, A.J., and maybe Cam Boozer, and maybe it is still that. But a lot of people now surmise that maybe it's Darren and A.J. Where are you at with the top two or the top three prospects in college basketball right now?
That's interesting because what I've heard recently, and I've been peppering people who would know this stuff, is they look at it as AJ or Cam Boozer.
Oh.
Like those are the ones right now because of the Peterson injuries. Peterson is a massive talent, but he's only played, 10 games this season? He's played, basically half their games. And so from what I've heard, it's like, all right, do you buy AJ as, the 6'9" wing who's going to only get better and is going to learn how to shoot from the outside and maybe be a little bit more of a playmaker? Do you think, that potential is higher than what anybody else can give you, or do you take maybe a steadier but lower ceiling of Boozer? Because like, I think the question with him is, does this translate to the NBA level, right? He's a monster at the college level. He was a monster at the high school level. But is he athletic enough for, being a 6'9" power forward, essentially going to have to probably play some 5 at some point? Is he athletic enough to make that work? Is that 3-point shot legitimate? Can he actually stretch the floor? Or are we only going off, 60, 70 attempts so far? I think the playmaking's there. I think the defense is good enough in terms of hands. Who knows, if he'll be able to, rotate consistently at the NBA level and make up ground in that space. But yeah, from what I've been talking to people, it's AJ or Cam, and Peterson could have a good tournament run and put himself firmly back into that because people believe in the talent. But I do think there's some concerns about the injuries and just not having seen him a whole lot.
Tell me your thoughts on AJ. We started to kind of really hone in on him when it was revealed that BYU was a possibility for him, and he played some high school ball here for I don't even know if it's an accredited school. We'll leave that off air, but it's some situation where a lot of good players play there. And so it's been pretty clear for a while that he has almost everything you want for the modern game. And I don't know about you, the more and more I watch him, the more and more impressed I am. What are your thoughts on the NBA potential of A.J. Debonsa?
Yeah, he had a tough game a couple of games ago, right? And it was a big matchup. You wanted to see more. And you're like, all right, that's a little disappointing. And then he comes out against Utah and drops, 43?
43, yeah.
I mean, he was incredible in that game. And for me, he would be the guy that I take number one, that I, quote unquote, risk it with, over Peterson or over Boozer. And I've been a Peterson guy for most of this time, but you can't deny 6'9", great wingspan, great athleticism. I mean, he's doing windmills in half court drives, the kid's a freak in terms of athleticism and the, size and length that you would want at the NBA level. I don't know if he can actually I have no idea if that shot translates to the NBA level. He's been okay shooting the ball from outside this year, but it's really such a small sample. It's hard to know. And then, is he going to be a guy who is just looking to score, or is he going to end up an all-around player who plays well on both ends of the floor? I tend to think his potential, I'll buy the potential. I'll take the risk with it. So he'd be my number one guy, but I don't know that, I don't know it's foolproof, if that makes sense. I do have a lot of questions about decision-making, but also, he's so young. He's so good. He has so much to develop. It might depend on where he ends up. If he ends up in a bad organization, then he'll probably just be, a pretty good player. And if he ends up knows how to coach, then he'll be a great player.
I'll tell you what he does. He plays his ass off for a kid that's as talented, because so many of these players who have come up through the AAU system and dominated in high school and dominated the summer circuits, a lot of them will float because they're just used to being the best player on the floor every night.
Right.
But AJ wants to be coached. He guards and he plays hard. I mean, there really isn't any entitlement to his game. And, last night he was 1 of 8 from 3 against Utah. I think he was 4 of 6. So that, probably at some point we'll have to improve as far as the consistency goes. I just don't really see any glaring holes at this age. I mean, I think he is the type of guy that if I had the number 1 overall pick based off of his upbringing, based off of how serious he is about his craft, based off of the fact that he really doesn't seem to be entitled and wants to be coached, I feel like, Zach, from my seat, I'm ready to say he's a pretty safe bet.
I think. Oh, did I lose you?
No, you're good. We got you.
Okay. I do think that there's some decision making out there in terms of where he's creating shots, how he's creating shots. It's a little formulaic, which I don't blame him. It's the training, right? It's all right, everyone's going to learn this 1, 2, then step back, jump shot, and that's it. And it's more about applying that. So I think he has a lot of the skills. It's just decision making, but also he's going to learn the game a lot more. That's where I would, give Peterson a bump, is he seems to really know how to use his skills. I don't think AJ does yet, which is, something that you can nitpick and say all right, if he doesn't figure out, decision making with some of that stuff, then maybe he's not going to pan out the way people hope. At the same time, you're he's this good and he doesn't really know what he's doing yet. That's an encouraging sign to me. So I'm with you. I think a lot of the skills are there. I don't it's workable, but it doesn't look like anything I trust right now. And if he can't shoot at the NBA level, it will limit what he can do at that level. But like I get the idea that Peterson or Boozer could be the safer pick. I'll take the risk with him. Like he to me is the number one pick. But I do understand why people might go away from that.
So let's dig in on Darren a little bit more, because it's reminding me a little bit, and maybe this isn't a great parallel, but when Kyrie was at Duke, everybody was like, I don't need to see him play 1 minute there. He's a genius. Right. He's going to be the number one overall pick. If my memory serves, he played like 8 games at Duke. So there's a faction of people that already believe, like, there are some people. I had I can't remember who it was. A couple of weeks ago, I was like, I don't think he should play again all year. Like, just sit. If there's any question, just sit. A lot of people think they've seen enough that they don't need to see anymore to believe he is the best player in this draft. Where do you land on that?
Yeah, I don't know about that. Like, I mean, he's 6'5", maybe really 6'4", which is still good size for a 2-guard. But like, he doesn't, like, I haven't seen a whole lot of like playmaking from him. I don't know what to make of him defensively. So if I'm gonna nitpick things, it would be the size versus AJ, the lack of playmaking that we've seen, and just like, obviously the injuries are tough, and we don't know like what he's going to be able to do physically at the NBA level defensively. But in terms of just being able to score and knock down shots, I've seen enough there. I know this kid's going to be a 25-point per game scorer at the NBA level. Like, he's going to be phenomenal in getting his shot. It reminds me a little bit of just how easy things seem for Bradley Beal, except Peterson is playing, you know, when he was at Florida, except Peterson's playing with a much better jump shot result. So I think that there's a lot of skill there. People may look at Bradley Beal and be like, oh no, we don't want him. That's to me a circumstance thing that he ended up with Washington. I think he could have been a better player if he had ended up elsewhere. But with Peterson, I do understand the idea of like, is it really worth it to risk these injuries? He's had a couple of injuries that are not totally concerning, but it's enough to where it's like, man, your money is at the next level. I get he's getting paid now, but like, your money's at the next level. Go out there and take care of yourself, shut it down, have a great pre-draft workout. Even if he ends up third, you know, in the draft, he can go out and then prove like, oh, I should have been picked over those 2 guys. You guys are idiots.
During the broadcast last night, and Fran Fraschilla obviously is great, a fountain of knowledge when it comes to the college game and the international game, and he was on the call for ESPN, and he was talking about the college game this season specifically with all of these freshmen. And it's, you know, AJ and Darren and Boozer, they get the attention, but there's like 30 high-level freshmen in college basketball this year. You combine it with some of the international stuff, and oh, by the way, you can now sign ex-NBA guys, which is just a wild thing with this game.
So stupid.
It is. It's beyond ridiculous. But what do you make if we pan back from the 3? How deep do you think this draft class is going to end up being?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably like 10 to 15 deep of guys that I expect to like be really good at the next level. I don't know if there are other stars there. Like Caleb Wilson's gotten a lot of a lot of hype that maybe was unexpected. There were some scouts that were saying, you know, he went out there and dominated Kansas and basically had said like, you know, they didn't pass me the ball in McDonald's All-American game, so I wanted to like get revenge. And so people were like, oh, I didn't know he had that dog. And I'm like, I remember Sam Vecini writing about this and being kind of impressed. And I'm really impressed with him. I don't know how it translates at the NBA level in terms of like skills with him, but he's a guy that like plays his tail off, is super intense. I think he's going to be really good at both, on both sides of the floor. And so like you put him as like the 4th or 5th or 6th pick in the draft. Okay, no, you're not getting an AJ DeBenza, you're not getting a Cam Boozer, you're not getting a Darren Peterson there, but you may be getting, you know, one of the best role players in the league in a couple of years. So I think there's a lot of potential there. There's some guys that maybe have some star potential that are unexpected, but like someone like Caleb Wilson, whether he goes, you know, 4th through 8, or wherever that range ends up being for him, like I think as long as you're in the lottery in this one and your front office is not run by clowns, like you're going to get a very good, productive, long-term player for you.
So there's not a ton of interesting current storylines with the Jazz that we haven't already discussed, besides Yusuf Nurkic just messing around and getting 3 straight triple-doubles. It's been kind of interesting to watch Nurkic and how Will is known as this offensive guru and the spacing, and he's getting Nurk the ball up at the top of the key, and he's so big he can see over defenders, a lot of cuts, and the ability to make plays with Nurk feels a little bit new. And you and I discussed a few weeks back that the Denver Nuggets at one point had both Yusuf Nurkic and Nikola Jokic and was like, what do we do here? Well, they did the right thing. He's not going to be part of the long-term equation here because they're 3 or 4 years away from being decent. But if you're the Celtics, if you're the general manager of Boston, and Nimi Keita, who played his college ball at Utah State, has played well for them. If you're a team that needs a big, are you calling the Jazz and asking about Nurk because of how well he's played here?
I think you have to kick the tires on it, right? Like, I wouldn't give up anything significant for him, but if it's like, hey, we'll give you a couple of second-round picks, you want to take, give us Nurk, like that might be worth it to the Jazz. It is funny. Like I always thought he was a pretty good playmaker. He was really good, kind of in that pick and roll, finding the next pass when he was in Portland. He did some of it in Phoenix, but I mean, his first 623 games, he had 1 triple-double, and now he's got 3 in his last 3.
Yeah.
You say, obviously, Denver made the right decision. I don't know. How many triple-doubles does Jokic have?
That's fair. Hey, you know what? Nobody's saying that out loud, Zach. You're right.
Exactly. I'm getting on that side first.
I love it. Anything else that you're hearing? I mean, they've got a bunch of expiring deals. Nurkic, Kyle Anderson, Kevin Love, George Niang, a bunch of players when it comes to not necessarily maybe making a difference. You could send out, just to make absorb some cap stuff with how clean the books are. And we know how many, draft picks they have in draft capital. If I had to guess, Zach, I don't think they do anything at all. I've long believed that the marketing stuff was never real.
Right.
Are you hearing anything else about the Jazz prior to February 5th?
Not really. I think they could get involved as like a third or fourth team in there, and try to grab some draft capital. I was just reviewing like what happened at the deadline last year. They got really smart with taking that 2031 first from Phoenix and exchanging 3 first-round picks that really weren't much in the first place in terms of like good value. Maybe they can reconsolidate some things here and there and make another move like that. But I'm with you. Like I don't think Markkanen's anywhere close to on the move. I don't think that any of their role play. I mean, maybe like a Kyle Anderson gets moved if a team really wants a veteran, but I would expect them to be more just kind of shuffling draft picks around the league rather than making a significant move.
Anything out there of note that you feel like is real? I mean, the Giannis stuff, Milwaukee's broken, he's hurt, the Knicks might need to do something. But when it comes to all of these rumors, is there any of them that are actually real and could make a difference that you think are going to go down?
I think everything's like pretty there's a lot of chatter, but I don't know anything that's like imminent, right? Like I think the one thing we can count on is Keon Ellis is going to be somewhere new. Does that move the needle for you?
It does not.
I think the Raptors are going to try to get off of R.J. Barrett or Emmanuel quickly. I don't know what that ends up meaning. You've heard a lot about, the Raptors are interested in DeMontis Sabonis. And so maybe the Kings start shedding some of that salary, but in order to make that deal, they'd have to take back some salary with either Barrett or Quickly, and I don't know if that's worth it to them. So I expect an active deadline. Talking with Mark Stein on NBA radio earlier, he said he thinks there's going to be 10 to 15 trades in the next week, but he just doesn't know if any of them are going to be good, and that's kind of where I am with this.
And the Kuminga stuff is still out there. I mean, at this point, it just feels like you got to move on. Neither side appears to be thrilled with the current situation, but the Butler injury opens up a rotational spot. I feel like Steve Kerr hates him. Like, it's not like I don't think he's a very good player. I feel like he hates him.
Yeah. He does not like the way Kuminga plays basketball. Like, that's for certain. He is not going to, like, all of a sudden be like, you know what, I believe in this kid. He doesn't believe in him. He doesn't believe he knows how to play the style that Kerr wants to play. And so the move should be move on from this kid, right? Move him, get something for him. Obviously, the Butler injury screws that up a little bit. But it doesn't mean he's unmovable. They could still absolutely move him. It's just, I think, they're going to not move him before the deadline. We're going to go into the summer. They're going to pick up his team option. And then we're going to go through this again leading up to next deadline. And it's going to end up having wasted 2.5, 3 seasons of this kid's career. Some of it's his fault, but some of it is just like you have an ownership group in Golden State who really likes Kuminga, and you have a coach who has no interest in playing him. What are we doing?
Yeah. I mean, at this point, it just feels like rip the Band-Aid off, let the kid get a fresh start. If he gets a fresh start, do you believe that there's something there that somebody can unlock?
Yeah, he's good. He's talented. I don't know if he's going to be an all-star, but he's a good player. He can score. He's super athletic. I think he'll be able to, like, really defend in a lot of systems, at least from, like, a help standpoint. Like, he's not a bad player. He's just not the type of player who fits in with what Steve Kerr wants to do. He's going to have to learn how to shoot. And if he learns how to shoot, he'll be a really, really good player with high potential. He's still super young. But if he doesn't learn how to shoot, then he'll be, like, a pretty good player somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, I'm looking at all these potential deals. I mean, if you're Dallas, where are you at right now with the Anthony Davis stuff? And if you're a general manager, I mean, I felt like a lot of people were just drawing a straight line between Atlanta's trade deal and an imminent next deal, and AD maybe being the target. But he's hurt again. How much value does he actually have?
I mean, not what Dallas is looking for. Especially like we're about a year away from that Luka deal, and just from a PR standpoint, even with Nico Harrison fired, I don't know what you can like. Can you really say like, all right, a year later, we got the equivalent of CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert for him? Like, I don't know if you can do that just from a PR standpoint, even though they've obviously taken on so much water PR with that move. Also, like it's hard to move these contracts. These $50 million contracts in season. Like those are things that are more likely to be moved in the summer when the restrictions aren't quite as high and you've got, more roster spots to deal with. So like to me, on a lot of these deals, whether it's Ja, whether it's Anthony Davis, like even Giannis, if he decided to move on and actually request that trade, I just think more of these are likely to be done around the draft than before next Thursday.
Let me kick the tires there because I mentioned the Knicks, and they've won a couple of games straight, but they don't look like the team they did a year ago, and it could be simply firing a really good coach and bringing in a rather average, mediocre coach. I watched that Philly game. Philly's so interesting to me because there's still part of me that wants to go, wait, Embiid, George, Maxey, VJ Edgecomb's really good. Like, could they ever get right if they get all those guys on the floor for longer than 2 games? But what do you think has led to this, not a massive slide, but I don't feel near as confident about the Knicks this year as I did last year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel as confident as I did 4 weeks ago, right? 4 weeks ago, they looked pretty good, and now – yeah, I mean, a big issue with there is just Karl-Anthony Towns is not happy. And he doesn't like Mike Brown's system, and he's not doing well in Mike Brown's system. And you've had some issue. It's not just Towns. You had some issues here and there with certain players, but for the most part, it is, Towns in that locker room is not happy, and there's just some eye rolling and some finger pointing and everything. If he started making shots, I think you'd see a different side of this. I think you could get it together, and I still don't think they need to make a move in order to win the East. Like they just kind of have to get their stuff together. There's not, that it's not that far from them being the best team in the East if they just play the way that they're supposed to play. I think Mike Brown is a good enough coach, but it is a failing that he hasn't found a way to get Cat involved. No matter what you think of Towns, like that's the situation. They can't just move him easily and get off that. And you're not going to send him out, not bring in a big man, and trust Mitchell Robinson to stay healthy or hit free throws. So they just kind of have to make it work with what they've got. And then if it doesn't, hope Giannis in the summer says, hey, get me out of here. I want to go to New York, and you make that trade happen.
Have you seen enough from Detroit? I just always hesitate with a team that hasn't really done anything in the playoffs or hasn't had a chance to do it because they're new on the scene, to lean all in. But most nights, if I hone in on them, I feel like I see enough to believe they'll at least have something to say about it. Have you seen enough from Detroit to lead you to believe that they should be the favorite in the East right now?
I mean, I think they're the favorite by default, right? Because of the Knicks, and I don't know if I fully trust what Boston is doing when it gets to a playoff standpoint, but I do like what they're doing. There are times I look at Philly and go, maybe I'm.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Did we lose him? Sounds like he fell into the void. We were teetering there for about 10, 15 minutes. It's all good. We'll catch a break. Zach Harper, NBA Daily Assist style. Appreciate his time today. The Jazz are in action tonight, but it's a late one. It's 8 o'clock, and it's nationally televised, which I believe is the only one for them all year. The LA Clippers are in town, two teams that potentially could owe their first-round pick to Oklahoma City. Lowry's going to play. I think Nurk is sitting. Keontae George is sitting as well. NBA basketball, where employees don't really want to show up to work. All right, we'll catch a break. Smitty's going to be live in studio. Andy Larson, Dave Fox, busy Tuesday show. Keep it here on ESPN 700. All right, buckle up. Buckle up. No, it's not Bowler. Bowler will join us at some point soon, but live in studio, back in action with is that denim, Smitty? Is that a denim jacket?
Do you like that?
That's a good-looking jacket,
that?
my friend.
Isn't that?
I'm a little jealous.
Yes, please, let my wife know that. When she looks and goes, what are you now, like trying to go back to the 70s?
I like it.
Is that what you're doing?
I think it looks great. How are you, my friend? It's been a while.
We're doing good. Hey, the buckle up thing, I don't know, is that trademarked? Is that can you use that outside of Bowler? Does he have a trademark on
That's
that?
a good question, like Pat Riley with 3-peat.
Yeah, I don't want to get anybody's stuff, you know what I mean?
Well, Craig, if you're listening, I'll Venmo you $2 every time I say buckle up.
There we go.
Yeah. But Richard Smith, live in studio, and it's great to see you. Now, I know you're a massive Red Sox fan.
Here we go.
Are you a New England Patriots fan?
You know what's funny about that, Spence, is growing up in southeastern Connecticut, and if you grew up in New England, when I did in the 60s and 70s, the sports world revolved all around all the teams in Boston, right? Because all of New England roots for all the teams coming out of Boston. But at that time, the Patriots were part of the AFL, and this is before the merger. So when I was growing up, the New England Patriots was seen as, quote, in that other league, and it wasn't really in the big boy league. At least that's what an 8-year-old kid in Norwich, Connecticut thought. You know, with his buddies.
Yeah.
And so the NFL team was the New York Giants. And where I grew up in that part of Connecticut, we were not allowed to root for any teams from New York. That was just that was the unwritten rule.
Yeah.
You know, and you lived in the other part of Connecticut, the western part of Connecticut, where you root for all the New York teams.
Correct.
So as a result, I never really had an NFL team. In fact, I have in my house right now a pennant that I ordered when I was, I think I was 8 years old, from the labels of the Franco-American spaghetti that my mom used to buy and feed us kids. And if you sent in 5 labels, you could get an NFL pennant of a team of your choice. And so I sent it in, and I checked off the Green Bay Packers because they were the team of the moment. That was the team that was winning, right?
Yeah.
So when you're that age and you don't really have a team of yours, you go to the team that's winning all the time.
Was this the Vince Lombardi Packers?
Yeah,
Nice.
And so this is an old pennant, and I somehow, I didn't even know how, Spence, I still have it. I actually have it, put it up several years ago when I rediscovered it in an old box somewhere, put it up in my so-called sports room at home, a memorabilia room, and it's hanging up there, and it's all folded up, and it's dusty, and it's old.
That's cool, though.
It's from probably, I'm going to say, like 1962, 1963, something. It has a caricature of a quarterback, an old-style quarterback throwing, and he's wearing number 41. And so that's how old the caricature is, you know, with the state of Wisconsin in the background. But yeah, I didn't really have a team, so the Patriots weren't really my team. And the Tom Brady era, you know, one of the greatest eras and maybe the greatest in NFL history. Didn't really have an affinity for that one way or the other, you know. No, it wasn't really my team.
Did you grow up a Celtic? Then you grew up a Celtics fan.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were first and foremost Red Sox fans.
Yeah.
And then we were Celtics fans, and really should have been probably more so Celtics fans in the 60s when I was growing up, when the Celtics were winning every year. Right? You know, the Red Sox never won.
Yeah.
But New England is a big baseball area.
Right.
And but the Celtics were winning all the time in the 60s, obviously with Bill Russell and John Havlicek and Red Auerbach. And yeah, that was my basketball team. And well, basketball when I was growing up was to a lot of us in my neighborhood, and to me in particular, was always a secondary sport to baseball.
Yeah. Well, and Frank often talked about his first love was baseball, right? I mean, I guess it just depends on when you come up and who the popular teams are.
And what you do in your neighborhood. See, in my neighborhood, we spend all summer long playing pickup baseball, either in Mike Clifford's backyard, because he had the right backyard, where the left field wall was the the side of his house, and then if you got it up on the roof, it was an automatic home run.
Okay.
Similar to hitting it over the wall at Fenway.
Love
right?
it.
That's
Yeah.
what you look at.
Yeah,
So that's what we played, either that or we went down the street to Broad Street School, where we had an all asphalt playground, if you can believe it or not, and we played either pickup baseball there, where first base was a big old oak tree. And so if you were playing first base and the ball came to shortstop and they threw it over to first, you as a first baseman had your left foot on the ground, and your right foot was up on the tree somewhere to catch the ball, and that's what we did. And you had to run by the tree and tag the tree as you ran by it before the ball got to the. But that's the setup of how we play. But we play baseball all summer long, every day. That's what our neighborhood did.
It's interesting. We were having this conversation. Amy Donaldson from KSL was in the studio last week, and we were talking about this, the new generation, where there's a study that was released this year that for the first time, more Americans name soccer as their favorite sport than baseball. So the new hierarchy is the NFL by far. So, it's by sport. So it's football 1, it's basketball 2. Now soccer is 3, and baseball is now 4. Hockey is now 5, and that's Americans identifying what their favorite sport is. So it's just interesting to consider generationally, because is it fair to say that when you were growing up, maybe baseball was 1? I mean, at that time, more so than football or basketball?
I would say so.
Yeah.
I mean, at least, in my limited worldview, in southeastern Connecticut, it was baseball, because at that time you had we had the Red Sox, obviously the Yankees were their rivals, and then early on we had the Brooklyn Dodgers and New York Giants, who then moved to the West Coast in the late 50s, but then in the early 60s the Mets came on board, and so baseball, it was baseball centric, and that was that was really the preeminent sport. I think probably because of the longevity of it, because it was rooted in the history of the region where I grew up. Since the turn of the century, basketball was a new thing from the 50s. So it was only at that time, 15 years old, something like that, on a professional level. And so baseball to us was the primary sport, and football was the secondary sport. And then hockey, because we had the Boston Bruins and the Rangers, and of course we were fairly close geographically to Canada, so we had Montreal Canadiens and Toronto, and so that was probably a distant third. Soccer at that time wasn't even on the landscape.
For sure, and it's interesting. The study digs in a little further. Can you guess which sport has jumped the most over the past 5 years? It's not soccer.
It's not soccer. Is it golf?
It's golf.
Yeah, is it?
Golf is now
interesting.
It's right behind hockey. It's ahead of tennis now. Golf is their favorite sport. And once upon a time, I felt like I wasn't even in the conversation. Maybe people would even have a debate like, is this a sport?
Yeah.
Are these guys athletes?
Yeah, and golf is, which you and I have taken up golf and enjoy it, on a recreational basis. Really, I follow it a lot. I follow both the PGA Tour and the LIV and keep up on that stuff. But I'm surprised that it's the fastest growing, just because it's it seems like an insular sport that is only for a certain group of people that can afford to do it. And I know they try and grow it in the urban areas and all that kind of stuff, but it still takes it takes a lot of effort and takes some money and some patience to learn how to play it. And the time it takes when you go out and play. And then the money and stuff, and so I'm surprised to hear that, but I know it gained a lot of popularity, as we know, during COVID, because that was one of the few things you could actually go out and still do on a social and recreational setting that people told you was, quote, safe to do at that time because of the social distancing. So maybe that has something to do with it.
It's interesting you bring up the economics of it, because we had Paul Pugmire on last week to talk about the PGA Tour is back and Brooks Koepka is going to play this weekend, and we just got into this conversation for for beginners, for people that, because there's so many people golf now, and it's not about man or woman. It's not about, an adult or a child. Like kids golf, adults golf, men golf, women golf. You have women's leagues, you have dates. It has become such a community pillar that a lot of people are gravitating towards, and like, well, how do I get good at this? How do I get better at it? What should I do to start? So we were talking about going through getting new equipment and maybe getting fitted if you feel like you're in a spot, and then going to the range and practice chipping and putting, and then, just kind of walking through the entire thing as far as how to get started. And yeah, there's a cost element to it for sure. And you referenced how much time it takes. Like if you want to get into it, you better have a very understanding partner or be single, because you're going to be gone a lot. But when it comes to the cost of your children, playing sports and what you'd like to have them get into, my son was a soccer player, and I can remember when he was good enough to start playing comp soccer, that first invoice I got for his first soccer team, I went, wait a second. All of these sports now, when it comes to kids specializing, you're going to pay a lot of money. And the issue is, if you want them to be even on the radar of the coach in high school, or maybe even, heaven forbid, play beyond that, you kind of have to specialize now. I never did that with Connor. I mean, I played everything. I ended up playing only basketball in high school, but not until I was 17, 18 years old. Growing up, I played absolutely everything. But there's a cost element and a business to this stuff, even with the young kids now, that was not around when I was growing up. It's expensive, and a lot of people are specializing in it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I don't like, Spence, and I haven't. I've seen that time and time again now that we're in an age in this society where everybody thinks that their son or daughter is going to be the next, big thing and whatever it is. And so when they're 12, 13, 14, they're being told that they have to choose, because whatever the sport is it soccer? Is it basketball? Are you going to play? Are you a tennis player? Whatever it's going to be, they're telling you, well, we practice or we work out year round.
Mm-hmm.
We either have competitions or we have our league, or even when it's out of the season, we still work out, to improve, to get ready for the next thing. And so you can't be doing 3 different sports like we did when we grew up, because when we grew up, it was just by season.
Yep.
So in the fall, you either were a golfer or you were a
football player. Yeah.
And then when December came, you switched over indoors and you played basketball, or you were a swimmer
or a hockey player.
Team,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then in the spring, you either played baseball or you went and participated in track and field,
lacrosse,
whatever it was.
Yep.
And so. And that was a form, even though we didn't know it at the time, but people are starting to do research on that when we talk about injuries and professional sports and all that kind of stuff, that the guys, people who seem to be getting hurt more now, even though they train more and have more access to medical help and training methods and all that. But the issue they're seeing is that the professional athletes now, when they get to that level, they're dealing more with injuries and soft tissue injuries, especially because they haven't had that cross training, because they've been doing the same sport since they were 13 or 14.
Right, yeah.
And so it's the same thing all the time. Whereas when you and I were growing up, we played in the fall, we played something, and then 3 months later we were doing something else. So you're doing a different activity. And so, maybe that has something to do with the injury stuff that we're seeing in professional sports now.
Yeah, and the other element, because we had Casey Evans was on the show yesterday. Casey played college football at Utah, defensive back, and he's now the head football coach at Olympus. And we were talking both on and off air about how much just high school sports and high school football has changed. And there's always been politics, the coach doesn't like me. My dad played for the coach. He didn't like my dad. And so, there's always been that element of it. But now with the ability, like once upon a time, it's like maybe my kid can grab a scholarship. Yeah, right. That would be awesome. And now it's like, well, maybe my kid can make $250,000, as a freshman. And so there's that. The money dynamic has even kind of made the parental delusion about what their kid can be. It's like put it on steroids now. It's no longer like maybe he could play D3 or maybe get a scholarship. It's like, wait a second. is my kid now the cash cow?
Yep.
You know, and so when it comes to AAU ball and in basketball or Little League football, all these high school coaches are now hearing from all of these people running Little League teams like, can I be the coach that funnels my players to you so I can call parents and say, hey, give me your 8-year-old if he's an awesome athlete because he'll end up playing for you at Olympus. Can I tell people, like, the way the money has changed, the pressure on children to evolve and grow in a sport, it kills the thing that made us all love it when we were that age, just playing and being with your friends, you know?
And what's going to happen, Spence, we don't know how this is going to play out, but that sliding scale of, if you got to be good enough in something, you became a professional athlete at age 23. And so you were earning a living doing that, and that was your dream, right? And then you could go to college and maybe do that, and you would get an education, a scholarship, and maybe you could pursue that if you got good enough, whatever. Mm-hmm. But now they've slid that scale down to now when you go to college, you become a professional athlete, right, because you're getting paid money, right? And now we see the NCAA is involved in it where they're now letting players change schools every year, whatever they want to do. So they go to the next school that is going to give them $100,000 more or whatever it's going to be. So where does that scale? Does that scale keep sliding, Spence? So now when does it become an issue at the high school level where kids are now getting at Corner Canyon? They're supposed to go to school at East High School, mm-hmm, but the coach at Corner Canyon says, hey, I can give your son $5,000 to come be the quarterback at Corner Canyon, or whatever it's going to be, right? And at some point, it's going to start leaking down into that, and so that's the part that scares me, and the part that that really is robbing the kids. You know what I'm in the middle of, Spencer? In fact, you're talking about that right now. Is I'm reading and I've watched a couple of documentaries on Todd Marinovich.
Sure,
he just put out a book,
yeah,
an autobiography, which is I'm anxious to read because his dad took him literally from the crib and started doing like stretches on his legs when he was 6 months old and all this stuff. And his dad, Marv Marinovich, played for the Oakland Raiders and actually was the first ever strength and conditioning coach hired in the NFL by the Oakland Raiders. And he was employing all these Eastern European practices of training and muscle building and all this. And he had his son, Todd, who has been well documented, was known as the Robo QB, right when he was in grade school and when he was 6, 7, 8 years old, and his dad was training him and wouldn't let him eat, junk food and all this stuff, and was only eating, fruits and vegetables when he was 5 years old, mm-hmm, and the whole thing. And a lot of sports people know how the Todd Marinovich story turned out, but it's interesting finding out as I'm in the middle of learning more about him that he really wanted to do all that. He was into it as a kid, but once he got to 15 years old and got to high school, and he got away from his dad during the day when he was with his peer group, and they're going, hey, let's go over here and have a beer after practice. And he's going, a beer? No, I can't have a beer. I gotta go home and lift some more weights. They go, no, what do you mean? And then how he reacted to that and all that kind of stuff. And that's fascinating. But he was, he's one of the primary and early examples of someone who specialized literally right out of the crib, directed by his dad to try and be one of those guys.
Yeah, yeah, and it's always been the case. Like John Calipari had this line a number of years ago. Somebody asked him how many NBA guys he had on his So he was coaching Kentucky, and of course Calipari sent a lot of players to the NBA, and he was asked after a game, how many pros do you have on this team? He said, I have 12. Go in the locker room and ask them. Right?
Right.
Like they all think they're going to the NBA. Yep. So it's not a new dynamic that a lot of young people are delusional about their ability and believe at some point they're going to play in the NBA. I mean, when I was 12, I'm like, people would be like, what do you want to be? I'm like, the point guard for the Knicks, because I thought I was going to be the point guard for the Knicks when I was 12.
Well, Spence, and everybody tells you in school, you can dream.
You can do
whatever you want to be.
Exactly. So I wasn't going to answer like an accountant at 12. I wanted to be the point guard for the Knicks. So it's not a new thing to be delusional, but there was this report. I just looked it up. It was CBS News. It was last year to pontificate on the possibility of colleges slashing a bunch of majors and basically allowing athletes to major in their sport. You're a football major. You're here because now this is big business. You're being paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. We don't need you to go take a U.S. history class. What's the point of that? We need you to focus on football. You're a basketball player at Duke. We don't need you to go take a econ class. You are majoring in basketball. So when you have the ability to make a living at that age, the conversation around now the business of college athletes is taking away a more well-rounded educational experience, which to me is a really slippery slope. Like if you think making $250,000 a year is a lot of money, which it is, it's a great salary. Everybody would love that. Well, in 4 or 5 years, when you're done and you don't go to the NBA and you don't go to the NFL, what's the next step? Yeah, congrats on making a couple $100,000 for 4 or 5 years, but you're now 24, 25 years old with 60 to 70 years left in front of you. Like, what are you going to do next? It's slippery. It's a dangerous thing.
Yeah, well, it's and we used to talk about the advancement of a young person's ability to be able to socialize, to be able to think critically as they're growing up in their teenage years, and all the different sports handle it differently. Spence, when I used to speak to groups and about the difference between different professional sports, I always use the example of how critical we are about kids getting into different sports and how we deal with them differently, and we actually don't answer it correctly because we treat kids different. I used to use this example. We would have 4 kids from the same neighborhood. They grew up together. They love playing sports together. They run around, and all of them have the same backgrounds and the same socioeconomic advantages, disadvantages, whatever. But as they grow into their teenage years, one kid becomes a football player, but he, in order to be a professional, has to wait 3 years after he's out of high school to realize any kind of a dream. Now maybe it's a little different because of NIL and college, but he would have to wait because everybody believed he had to get his body has to get better and has to get bigger and all that kind of stuff, mature. The basketball player could become a professional after 1 year out of high school, right? Had to play a year in college, whatever. The kid who plays baseball, he goes right out of 2 weeks after high school graduation, goes to a minor league, gets drafted, goes to a minor league team somewhere, and is being a paid professional in the minor leagues to do that professionally as an 18-year-old. So you got the same kids from the neighborhood, the 21-year-old, the 19-year-old, the 18-year-old. They're each given barriers when they could start doing that. The fourth kid in that example, he becomes a tennis player. He doesn't even play on his high school tennis team because if he's one of those guys, when he's 16 or 17, he's playing at Wimbledon.
Yep.
And he's playing at the U.S. Open, and he's already a professional because he's that good. And so what is the delineation mark? Like what makes him able to be a professional, but his friend, the football player, has to wait another 5 years to do that?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. And so now we see all that caving in on top of each other when we're talking about the college level and everybody starting to get paid in different sports and right out of high school. It's I don't know where it ends, but it's really an interesting look onto what our society is doing at the moment.
Before we catch a break, and coming up next, I want to talk about trade deadline coming up and then lean into some of the prospects. But Arizona was in town last night. Fran Fraschilla on the broadcast as Arizona beat BYU in a great college basketball game. And Fran, as you know, knows a lot about the college game.
One of the all-time greats.
Yeah, knows a lot about the international game. And
Yep.
if I've said it once, I've said it a million times. Coaches make the best analysts.
Yeah.
So when Fran's on a broadcast, I will, like I used to, I mean, I know he's not doing it anymore. I used to love listening to Hubie Brown on broadcast because you learn about the game.
Yep.
And Fran had an interesting take on this freshman class is insane. A lot of people focus on AJ and Darren and Boozer. There's like 30 high-level freshmen, bunch of international players. Arizona's got a couple.
Yep.
And then now this insane ability to go sign ex-NBA guys or G League guys.
Yeah.
That's nuts. But his assertion is it's improved the overall product. There's more high-level college basketball being played this year than in years past. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I think that's accurate because what's happening is that these guys, again, we talked about the specialization, Spencer. You're talking about all these kids who have only played basketball since they were 12 or 13.
Yeah.
So now they're 18, 19. So they've been doing just that year-round for 5, 6, 7 years now. And now you also have that group of international kids who used to play over in Europe with a club team. If they were identified in Europe, for most of our listeners who aren't familiar with that, if you were considered one of those kids, instead of going to a high school, you would go to a club team like Luka Doncic, for example, grew up in Ljubljana in Slovenia. When he was 14, he was identified as a top-level prospect. And so he moved to Madrid, Spain, different country, different language, and went to an academy and took classes at the high school level while he was being trained on the professional level on a junior team, and then progressed to the senior team. Most of those kids in the past would progress if they got good enough, would graduate to the senior team and be on a high-level team in Europe when they're 19, 20, 21 as a young professional. Now what's happening is that those kids, when they're identified, if they make that progression well enough, when they're 17, 18, now instead of graduating to their senior team in Madrid or Barcelona or Athens or Munich, whatever it is, those kids are saying, wait a minute, I can go to the senior team and make $100,000 and probably sit at the end of the bench and have to wait my turn on this team. Or now I have an option where I can move to the United States. I can go play at Kansas. I can go play at Duke. I can go play at Illinois, whatever it is. I will play because they want me to play. They're going to give me 30-plus minutes a game. I'm going to be able to actually play every day, learn the game, make more money because they're giving me $1 million in NIL. Say, for example, and that's what happened with the kid down at BYU last year, the kid from Russia. They came out of the Russian youth system that Andrei Kirilenko runs now, and he became a first-round draft pick of the Brooklyn Nets. But those kids are now coming to the U.S., playing college, making more money, getting more playing time, and right under the noses of all the NBA scouts. So for the international kids, it's a no-brainer if you're one of those guys, instead of staying with your club team, to come over and infiltrate the college system.
Yeah.
So that's why you're seeing all the young international kids now on these high-level college teams.
Yeah, and it's a way for coaches to maybe balance out some talent deficiencies. If, there's a program that's getting all the AAU kids or the high-level high school kids in state. Alex and his staff bring in the Lucas Langarita kid. He only played a few minutes against BYU. He's hurt now, but he looks to be really good. And we'll get to Arizona coming up on the other side. They've got a couple of international kids that are really talented. Some breaking news here. Bill Belichick is not going to be a first-ballot Hall of Famer. He won 8 Super Bowls. So they just had the Hall of Fame stuff coming in from the NFL. I believe we have a few local options out there. I think Haloti might be on there. You win 8 Super Bowls and you don't get into the Hall of Fame on the first try. That seems interesting to me.
It's got to be a political thing, right?
Probably. That'd be my guess. I mean, 8 Super Bowls is a lot of Super Bowls. There have been 4 football teams that have never even played in one. But coming up next, Smitty live in studio. We'll lean into some more college basketball storylines. We'll talk a little Utah Jazz, a little trade deadline. But want to tell you about my friends at Game Day Men's Health before we catch a break. I'm thrilled that they're on the show and on the station because I work with them every day. In fact, I have an appointment coming up on Thursday for my monthly blood check, and that's good. That's something that I really haven't talked about very much. The nice thing about Game Day Men's Health is it's not just like a car wash where you go in there, they help you out, then they send you on their way. You have a relationship with them where they're monitoring your blood work and your levels constantly to make sure you're in a healthy place. It's one of my favorite things. But obviously, New Year's resolutions, January is almost behind us. If you had a goal or a resolution to maybe lose some weight, get back in shape, maybe lose a lot of weight, and it's not going that well, I can highly recommend Game Day Men's Health because they help me out. Here is the deal. A couple years ago, I set a goal to get into the best shape that I've ever been in. I just was like, okay, you're aging a little bit now in your 40s. Let's get in the best shape possible. So I cleaned up some habits, started working out multiple times a week, and I just wasn't seeing the results that I was hoping for. And I had a friend ask me if I had ever supplemented testosterone before, which I had not done. So he recommended Game Day Men's Health. I went in for the free consultation. See, the nice thing about this is you're getting the very same deal they give me, which is a free consultation. It's a little bit of blood work, and then they talk about the products they have that could potentially help you. If you need to lose a lot of weight, they have the most affordable semaglutide and tirzepatide, all the stuff that people use now. But for me, they recommended some testosterone supplementation and also their peptides, which I started using a couple times a week. And then, boom, within 3 to 4 months, my results went through the roof. And the good news is 2 years later, I've kept the weight off and I feel as good as I've ever felt, even as I'm aging. And like I said, they maintain the relationship. So they do blood work. And if they have to adjust some things based off of your levels, they'll do that. So schedule the free consultation, step number 1. But here's the kicker. If you mention ESPN 700, if you tell them you heard me talking about it on the show, they're offering a 50% off discount for your membership all year. Now, why is that applicable? Well, it is January. And as I understand calendars, January is the first month of the year. So if you waited, if you heard me talking about it last year and you waited until now, get this done today and you get the discount all year long at Game Day Men's Health. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com, schedule that free consultation. Tell them you heard me talking about it. You get 50% off your first-year membership with our friends at Game Day Men's Health. More with Smitty coming up next on ESPN 700. All right, we got Smitty live in studio for one more segment. Andy Larson joins us later. Dave Fox joins us later. We'll get back to some of the news of the day today. Bill Belichick is not going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer in the NFL, even though he won 8 Super Bowls. 6 Super Bowls went today. That is wild to me. A bunch of different coaching announcements. Joe Brady has been promoted to head coach of the Buffalo Bills. Pittsburgh's own son, let's see, McCarthy was introduced today, I believe. That's right. So the new Steelers coach has been introduced, Mike McCarthy, earlier today. We've got Kevin Stefanski in Atlanta. So a lot going on today in the world of pro football. Oh, by the way, there's still one more pro football game at a Super Bowl 60 between the Patriots and the Seahawks coming up on February the 8th. All right, Smitty. I am wildly impressed with Tommy Lloyd's team. I mean, Arizona in town last night. It was a great college basketball game. BYU was down 11 with 62 seconds left and nearly pulled it off after a pretty chaotic ending. Obviously, BYU is very good, but Tommy's got a good team, doesn't he?
Well, he always has very good teams, and he does a great job of recruiting. But, of course, Arizona is one of the blue bloods in college basketball and has always had an ability to get a lot of guys there. And he was able to keep a couple of main guys as older guys. Now, one of their leaders, obviously, is the Bradley kid who's a senior now and really played well last night. And then, they got a couple of those freshmen who are top-level recruits. And Tommy's been able to put it together. Of course, he has the great background of being an assistant for almost 2 decades at Gonzaga and was the lead recruiter with a lot of those great Gonzaga teams of the early 2000s and now is applying that trade down at the University of Arizona and has his guys rolling at the moment.
It was interesting watching the way they decided to kind of go at this schematically where they shot 12 threes and they scored 86 points. They went to the free throw line 32 times, went 26 of 32. But it was a lot of, they want to get to the glass, and they've got a lot of bigs and athleticism. But it was a lot of mid-range, too, and getting the free throw line. Like in the modern game, to shoot 12 threes and score 86 points is kind of a different way to approach this thing.
Yeah, well, they have a lot of skilled players.
Yeah.
They have a lot of guys who can get on top of the rim, and they're a good free throw shooting team. So when they put that stuff together and they play at their own pace, and they move the ball, and they've got they've got a backcourt, of a top level senior and an exciting freshman that play off of each other. They're just a very good team, and then they mix in a couple, as we mentioned earlier, a couple of the international recruits that they brought in who were high level guys over in Europe in their youth programs, and they're mixing in well, and it's always nice to have those guys because Spence, the guys who come over from Europe and Australia particularly, those kind of guys have always been brought up in systems where they're taught to share the ball, move the ball, play as a team, much more so than American kids who grow up kind of learning how to play one-on-one and get my own and all that kind of stuff. So when you can mix in some good young American recruits and then get them meshing with some of the European guys, some of that teamwork kind of stuff rubs off on them, and if you can make it gel like Tommy's got it going here in Arizona this year, then you can see the results you can have.
Yeah, Braden Berries was the California Player of the Year in high school. He and, as you referenced, Jaden Bradley, that's one of the best backcourts in America. The Karachenkov kid, Krivas, their center, and then the Awaka kid off the bench is a beast. That's
my guy.
He is good.
I like him. You know what he is, Spence, to me? He's a fourth-year player. He's from the Bronx. But when I watch him play, and I've seen him play several times now this year, he reminds me of a lesser version of a Paul Millsap.
Okay.
In that he plays tough, he plays hard-nosed. You never hear a word out of him. He just goes and gets after the ball, whether it's rebounding or getting mid-range shots or crashing the glass. I really like his game. He's a guy, to me, who's the glue of that team. And the other guys are getting more of the accolades, and he's just quietly playing and doing his thing. I really like him as a pro because I think he could be just one of those nice mixed guys on on your bench that comes in and just kind of, sets the solid screens, goes in, gets an offensive rebound, does some stuff, plays quietly, but really is a hard-nosed kid.
Yeah, it's funny you reference, the Bradley kid being a senior, because Fran last night cracked a joke. He said Tommy's had him 3 years, which in college basketball now is forever.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you look at the metrics, they're the best team in the Big 12 and the best team in the country, and really there's even a gap between Arizona and everybody else. They beat Florida to start the year. They beat UConn in stores. They beat UCLA, Auburn, top 25 team, Alabama, top 25 team, and then just went to Provo and beat BYU. They haven't lost in conference, but strength of schedule is up there. I mean, that, to me, at this point, they're the best team in the country, and I don't know how close it is.
Yeah, well, and one of the things they have going for them to this point, and you knock on wood, and for them, is that they've had all their guys healthy.
Yep.
So all their guys have been able to play, and they've been there. And, as we always know, Spence, you can put together a great team and have a good rotation, have 3 or 4 guys coming off your bench and all that. But if you're missing a key guy or 2 key guys, then that can hurt what you're trying to get accomplished. And to this point, Arizona's been able to play with a full stack all year.
So BYU was able to use a very good second half and a little bit of a chaotic final 5 minutes to get back in the game. BYU scores 31 points in the first half, 52 in the second. But to start out, they looked tight. They looked like they were a little bit, I don't want to say unprepared, but a lot of bad turnovers. Kennard Davis Jr. ended up hitting his last 5 threes, but he took a couple of really bad shots in the first half, and you could see Kevin go at him for it, because a couple of bad threes led to some Arizona runouts, and it led to this big run where Arizona had this lead early. It took Richie a minute to get going. AJ had 24 points, but it took 24 shots to get there, 1 of 8 from 3. But they still had a chance to win the game at the end. And I thought Kevin in the second half did an interesting thing. Keba Keita went to the bench, and he said, okay, it's AJ, and then it's shooting. He went small, right? And that kind of allowed them to get back into it.
Yeah.
But what do you make of the BYU side of last night?
Yeah, you had to do it. At that point in time, he was struggling. They got down, but 19 at one point in the second half. So in that situation, you have a chance to be able to come back, but you have to do something different than what you're doing right now. And so that's the decision Kevin Young made, which paid off because he had the young kid, the kid, I forget his name, number 6.
Alexi.
He had a couple of threes.
Yeah.
And then Kennard hit a couple threes and kind of got a little bit of momentum, and then they got all the plays falling their way the last couple minutes, and the questionable call, okay, went their way, whatever, but had a chance at the end, and I thought the kid, had a nice play in the lane. He ball fake Bradley, got him off him, had a little dinker, didn't know that the kid was going to come off the weak side and make that block on the ball that he did. Looked like he had the play made, and I thought that was the right play. I thought putting the ball in his hands was the right play, because he can go get a bucket and figure it out once he can get in the lane. And they just Arizona just made a better play defensively and held on. But that's they look tight early, maybe because they haven't played in big games like that. I don't know. Sometimes and there are a lot of NBA guys in the place, and half the Jazz team was there sitting on the sidelines and all that. And sometimes that gets you a little distracted in those kind of home games and stuff. But it came down the wire, and BYU scrambled, and it was like a horse race, and they just got nosed out at the finish line.
Let me let me follow up about the last play, because you said you liked that it was Rob with the ball in his hands, right? So initially my thought was, why isn't that AJ? And, you referenced Braden Burries, who was on Kennard Davis on the weak side, makes an unbelievable block, and then keeps the ball in bounds like Bill Russell style and maintains possession. Because it did look like Rob was going to be able to get a bunny to tie and maybe win the game. But initially I'm like, that should have been AJ. And then I went back and watched the final play, and it actually looked like Kevin drew up a play for AJ, but Koa Pete was able to kind of deny him, and then Rob was like the second option. Is that kind of how you read that play as well?
What they're going to do, you see how the inbounds play, they had Rob Wright way back in the backcourt. They threw the ball 60 feet in the air, let him catch it, wide open court. And the play, I think, was to space out let Rob Wright operate, because he can do that.
Yeah.
That's one thing he has the ability to do. To figure something out off the dribble. He did it. He got in the lane, had a good ball fake, got rid of the kid. I don't think he saw the kid. I think the kid came from his blind side.
Yep.
I don't think he felt him or saw him at that moment. He thought, I got rid of the kid. I got a little bunny here. We're going to take the lead. And, and the other kid just made a better play. But I think it's also that play is designed to get in the lane, see if you can draw some kind of defense. If somebody's going to collapse on you, whether you've got Debansa open or whether you got Richie Saunders open or whether you got the big shooter, the stretch 5, who was out there, number 5.
The Boscovitz kid, yeah.
The Boscovitz kid.
Yeah.
He was open at the end, in fact, when the play ended, he was standing there with his hands up in the air like, hey, I'm still open, whatever. But the play is designed to try and suck in the defense somewhere and for Wright to be able to hit an open shooter. And if that's not available, then that means you as the ball handler probably are going to have a one-on-one play, which is what he had. And they just made a better defensive play on it.
So AJ, again, 24 points, but took 24 shots to get there. Did get to the free throw line 16 times, where he knocked down 11 of 16. And they did. Arizona's a really good defensive team.
Yeah.
BYU had a lot of turnovers early, but I credit Arizona for really swarming them and pressuring the ball and gapping AJ and making it difficult on him. But last time BYU played, it was against the University of Utah down in Provo, and he broke Danny Ainge, his freshman record, with 43 points. And Utah, I'm not sure how much you were able to see that game, but Utah actually stayed in it by knocking down a bunch of wild threes. And look, if you're watching it, you just kind of realize that's not sustainable. When is this run coming? The run ended up coming close to the end. AJ with his moment. The weird thing is BYU just kicked Utah's ass in the paint, and they couldn't do anything against Arizona in the paint. That's why Kevin went small, because of Arizona's size advantage. But it's just going to continue to be a tough road for Alex. They've got 2 pretty good ball-in-hand lead-scoring guards. But there's a talent gap that's pretty apparent, and I thought it was a nice moment for AJ as BYU pulled away from Utah last Saturday.
Yeah, well, they fought him hard, played well. They had a chance in the Huntsman Center a few weeks ago. Didn't have the ball, bounced their way in the last minute. It didn't go their way down in BYU and Provo. It was last week was just not. They hung in there for a while, but I felt the exact same way as you just described it, Spence. It looked like they made some threes, but they didn't really feel like they were really true threes. They were just kind of shots they threw up out of desperation. Oh, it went in.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's cool. And that hung them in there for a while. But BYU's talent just won out. As the game went on, and Utah is going to have to. They're on the recruiting trail. Obviously, they're going to have to get more talent, better players to be able to get up into the ranks of the Big 12 and to be competitive in that regard. And we all know this is the first year of Alex Jensen and his group being there and trying to instill what they want to do and how they want to play and the talent they have to get in to be able to do it the way they want to do it. Alex Jensen is known as a defensive guy, and so eventually they're not a good defensive team now, but that's because they don't have the talent to be a good defensive team, in my opinion. And but eventually, Alex's defensive acumen and his philosophy of playing defensively first is going to win out when they get the talent and when they get the players in there and they can execute the way he wants to play. And then you're going to see an improved team. But they're playing hard. But they're a bunch of guys who came from other programs at the last minute last year, and they've kind of cobbled together this roster that they're just trying to get through the season on and see what they've got to carry on going forward and what guys are going to be leaving the program and all of that. And it's a program in transition, and there's a lot of work that they have left to get done. They're just starting it.
Yep, it's going to take some time. This was a total teardown and rebuild, and Utah will be back at it, taking on Oklahoma State and then Arizona State at home before hitting the road. All right, little jazz here. Yusuf Nurkic had 1 triple-double in his entire career. Now he has 4 because he's had 3 straight.
Yeah.
It means nothing, but it's just kind of a interesting
midseason
storyline.
Shut him down, everybody. Shut him down. Let's go. This is
Put him on the
way
sideline.
out of hand. It's this three triple doubles in a row.
Yeah, I don't really know what else to ask you. That's like the thing people are talking about it with the Jazz.
Well, it was Spence. We're a little over a week away from the trade deadline, right? Next Thursday, and the Jazz are going to be in an interesting position because they've got those 4 expiring contracts on the vets they all brought in, right? And so whether it's a Nurkic or Love or Anderson or George Niang, all those guys are on expiring deals. So you have 2 ways to play it as a team. You can look at it and say, well, we're just going to ride it out with those guys because they're all expiring deals, and then in the summertime we're going to have close to $50 million in available money where we could go out on the free agent market and try and get something that way to try and bring somebody in to help us with marketing and Keontae George and whoever might be our Ace Bailey if he's part of that mix. And then what you're going to do, obviously there's going to be a big decision to make with the big kid who's been out all year and whether he's going to be a restricted free agent. So whether you're going to re-sign him, you're going to let him go out in the market and set the price with somebody else and then have to look and decide if you want to match it or not. Of course, we're talking about Walker Kessler. If he's part of your deal going forward, or with these expiring contracts, do you want to move them now and move them to teams who might value 1 or 2 or more of those guys on teams that might be competing for playoff positioning or even playoff success in the spring, and move those guys now and get some additional draft picks or compensation or something like that to aid in what you're trying to build going forward. So the Jazz have 2 different ways to go in that regard in the next 8 or 9 days. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. My guess is that they're going to field a lot of offers, and then they're just going to make a determination whether something makes sense to them that's going to help them long term, or if people are trying to get 25 cents on the dollar and they're just going, no, that's not worth it, and we just hold on to it and see what happens. And that's going to be interesting, and it's going to be the old the proverbial Yogi Berra-ism. When you come to the fork in the road, Spence, you take it.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, exactly.
Which way they're going to go, left or right, remains to be seen.
All right, before I set you loose, Will Hardy won his 100th game the other day. He's lost 192, but
sure he's not happy about that. Yeah,
but he won his 100th game. Yeah. There was a celebration. It was very much Isaiah Collier breaking John Stockton's rookie assist record type manufactured celebration. But hey, here's my question though. Everybody seems to be on the same page that this guy can really coach. That seems to be the consensus. And I'm aware that most nights the Jazz enter gyms looking across the way with a team that has much better talent on the floor. For the 3rd straight year, the Jazz are about to not just be the worst team in the NBA defensively, they're about to be the worst team in the NBA defensively by far.
A lot. Yeah.
It's not even close.
Yeah.
So, what's fair to say? I mean, there are other teams that are also not winning games intentionally that are much better defensively than the Jazz. There are other teams that have a talent deficit compared to their competition that are much better defensively than the Jazz. Now, there are clips of Will yelling at his team to play harder. I'm quite sure he doesn't coach them to not guard. But look, I'm aware of the walking line with Will Hardy. Bright young coach, good communicator, good leader, Popovich tree, 6-year extension. This is our guy. Great. Yeah. But for 3 years, you've been historically pathetic defensively, and it is what it is.
Yeah. And Spence, there's a lot of different levels to that.
Right.
And what level is really the truism remains to be seen. One is that you just don't have the talent on the team to execute what you want to do. Another level is you have talent on the team, but they just don't do it for whatever reason. They're lazy. They don't adhere to principles. They don't exercise the game plan, whatever that is. Another level is how are they coached? How do they practice? What do they work on in practice? Another level is who are your development coaches? Who are the guys you have on your staff? What are they working on with these guys individually to get them to understand how to do that, how to exercise that? There's a lot of different parts of it that it could be. I don't know what part it is, but you're exactly right. The bottom line is that under Will Hardy's tenure, they've lost 2 of every 3 games they played. Okay, is it the coaches he has around him? The one thing I've never liked is that they don't have that resilient, very experienced NBA coach on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of young coaches,
12 of them,
and I know,
or whatever the number.
Yeah, but they don't have that kind of Phil Johnson guy, that kind of Gordon Chiesa guy, the guy who's been through the ropes a lot of years and has seen it and can help stop the gap or do some things from teaching points. So I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's his staff. I don't know if it's how they're doing things. I don't know if it's just the talent level that they have. They just don't have the players. But you're right. You can't hide from the facts, and the facts are that in 3 years now they haven't gotten any better defensively. With the players they have brought in, whether it's new young guys or the veteran old guys. And so at some point you have to start looking in the mirror and saying, what is it that's not working? Because obviously we're not even getting any traction to kind of slowly move up the ladder in that regard. We're just spinning our wheels so far. The Keontae George kid has gotten better offensively. He has not gotten better defensively. But he has shown that he's a bucket getter. Okay, so that's something you hang your hat on. And Lauri Markkanen, I'm sure, is being frustrated about, playing at an all-star level but not getting any results out of it. And at some point that starts worrying on you, Spence, in the locker room, on the plane, on the team bus, on the road, in the hotel, because you're wondering, what are we doing? What's going on? And that stuff starts to wear on you because it becomes a long season when you're losing. And then when you're losing multiple years the same way without any kind of perceivable light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, in terms of improvement, it can start wearing on you. It can really start getting to your psyche as both a player and a coaching staff.
Yeah, and, I still sit down and watch Jazz basketball as I have since I was like 4. And so you're just kind of watching night in and night out, wondering why they're not guarding. Is it schematic? Is it effort? Is it they don't have very good basketball players? I don't know. Well, look, great to see you. Good to have you back. Glad you enjoyed your travels, Smitty, and we'll get you on soon.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate you.
The great Richard Smith experienced the heart-pounding thrill of PBR, not the beer, professional bull riding, at the Delta Center, February 6th and the 7th. Tune in to the Sean O'Connell Show at noon for your chance to win a pair of tickets to the event. More details can be found at ESPN700sports.com. All right, 2 hours down, 2 hours to go. Keep it here on ESPN 700. All right. Andy Larson is live in studio, which is always fun. We'll do a little jazz, a little RSL, whatever else comes our way. Andy, how are you, buddy? Good to see you.
I'm good, man. Yeah, it's jazz time. We're getting 9 days away until the trade deadline.
Yeah.
That's kind of top of mind for me. And then, going on this next jazz road trip as well. And so, watching the game last night, the BYU Arizona game last night was obviously an entertaining one too. So yeah, I think it's a good sports time of year.
It is for sure. Now let's do a little RSL right out of the gates, because when you joined us last, you made a plea to, let's sign some players.
Yeah.
Looks like they have. I got our guy Tommy Scoops up. Morgan Geolove, I have no idea. RC Lens, striker, $5 million.
They're paying that much for him?
The fee is around $5 million. And this is all from Tom Bogert, nothing official from the team. 27 years old, 21 caps with the national team, and he is a striking player and a designated player. I have not been smashing RC Lens tape as of late. I know nothing about this young man. Do you know anything about him?
Not really, no. The midfielder signing, again, and you may have to help with the pronunciation there, Stein, whatever. But
I'll get there.
Is
think
another
that one's official, I think.
That one's official, and is another addition. Looks like a center defensive midfielder. But my issue is basically like that these guys, and again, also not crushing RC Lens tape, so I don't know. But when you read the replies on like the RC Lens Twitter page and read the replies on Brøndby's Twitter page or whatever, these guys, previous fans, are pretty excited that those players are leaving the team.
Well, really?
and that scares me, right?
Oh, dear.
Like when I see, when Jazz fans celebrate Taylor Horton-Tucker leaving going to the Bulls, and Bulls fans are reading, hey, what's going on? What do the Jazz fans think about Taylor Horton-Tucker? They might be right.
That's fair, yeah.
And so, I saw one fan say, like, I can't believe we got a $3 million transfer fee for this guy. That's ludicrous. And in fact, if you go on Transfer Market, kind of like this website that estimates transfer fees, maybe this player should have been only worth $1 million, $1.5 million. So it's not been the kind of business that, again, as a outsider who's not watching the film, it's not the business that I think RSL fans are going to get excited for until there are actual results on the field for actual Real Salt Lake.
All right, I believe it's Morgan G. Lavogi. I think that's what it is. And I'm learning a lot of this in real time. So soccer fans, I'm a little basketball and football centric. RSL starting soon. 16 matches last year. A goal.
Yeah. Right? Like, and so you understand why the Lens fans were probably like, I'm completely fine to sell this guy for $5 million.
One goal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And, not all of those appearances were starts, but yeah, and that's what's so disappointing is you look around MLS and you do just see teams acquiring proven talent, and we know RSL has the money to pay for proven talent, and these are shots, and maybe we'll see, maybe these shots will work out. Certainly, they have sometimes in the past, but I will say the last 3 designated players RSL has signed have not gone well, and in fact have are leaving or have left the team. So it's the track record is as if they had a quality track record, you could say, hey, in the front office and Jason we trust. I don't know that track record exists for RSL as it stands.
So 2 years now, I have his entire stats up. All right, 2 years with FC Lens. Last year, 1 goal. The year before, 2.
Okay.
So 3 goals in 2 years. I don't know anything about Paris FC. League 2, apparently in France. Yep. Better there, 26 goals and 82 appearances. Look, I have zero frame of reference.
RSL is a much better team than Paris FC, right?
Okay.
And MLS is a better league than League 2.
Okay. I mean, this has to be something where they believe they see something in him that they can unlock that has not been unlocked. Is that fair?
Yeah, and look, I mean, what I know about him is that he is a high work rate pressing forward.
Okay.
And that's, that is still the model that RSL wants to play with, is to try to get turnovers up the pitch and turn those into chances. And I think, honestly, the model has been decent over the last couple of years. I would say more 2 years ago than last year, but I think that is relatively sound. I don't know what the new coaching staff is adding in, or what, obviously there's a new formation to play here. But yeah, at some point, I look at RSL for the last 18 months, and I don't see a team that has underperformed its talent. I see a team that has probably overperformed its talent and still is barely squeaking into the playoffs.
So we signed the Guinea Willie Agata is what we did. Is that what this is? Pressing for? I don't know.
I mean, Willie Agata, I don't even know that he was that good at pressing.
All right. Stein Sperians is the other player. Right. His name is Stein Sperians. He is a defensive holding mid, right? And so that essentially is to step in and fill the void of Brian Ojeda, because they also got. We used to have so many Bryans, now we have no Bryans.
Correct.
So Ojeda's now in Orlando. So this is like basically to fill in for him, correct?
Seems like. I mean, that, and just positionally, what he does on the field is defensive midfielder stuff. And we getting the chance to see him play in preseason RSL action. Again, another player that their fans were not disappointed to see go, which is again another concern. But it is absolutely a spot that RSL needed to fill. I don't think it was enough to go with just Anelli and Ruiz and the depth that they have there as is.
They signed a center back too that you and I have not talked about, because again they moved on from Ojeda, so they needed
Vera,
and Vera, excuse me. So they did sign a center back. Do you know anything about this player? I can't. Lucas Engel.
Lucas Engel, yeah. He played for Cincinnati.
Okay.
Actually was really good at Cincinnati.
Okay, good.
Their fans are sad that he's gone, so that's a good sign.
All right.
Hey, how about that?
Yeah, there's that.
I actually think this is a pretty clever acquisition that they did in the waiver draft, which is one of MLS's weird rules, but they had to pay for a fee. Was it Burnsmith or I can't remember where he was, but basically, when he was on loan with Cincinnati last year,
Middlesbrough,
thank you, played pretty well. So I think, and he's basically a left back or center back or left center back in a back three. This is actually the acquisition that I think RSL fans can be most confident in.
Okay.
Because he has a proven track record of playing well in MLS.
So we got 3 new players, a forward who had 2 goals over the past 2 years, 3 goals over the past 2 years, central defensive mid, and a center back. Jason was on the show last week and teased the potential of 5 signings, so maybe there's 2 more. Have you heard anything at all? Because I have not.
I have not.
Okay. All right, there you go. All right, moving on. Moving on to a little Jazz stuff. What's most fun right now for you? Is it the Nurkic triple-double stuff? It's Will Hardy winning the 100th game? What's the most fun storyline right now with the Jazz?
I mean, I think it's still, to me, Keontae growth. Keontae coming into being a real star player, right? Like, look, the Nurkic triple-double stuff is fun, but mostly just because the Jazz haven't had anyone with this level of triple-doubles. It just kind of like serves to highlight how ridiculous that streak was for 20 years.
Yep.
It's Nurkic who got at the triple-doubles, not Donovan Mitchell or Rudy Gobert or Gordon Hayward or Darren. It's Yusuf Nurkic, but that's where we are. I have been encouraged with what I've seen from Ace Bailey since coming back from the illness and the hip flexor, I should say, with him. So that's been encouraging. But then what's not fun is the defense, right? Like, they are absolute garbage defensively. I don't think that's harsh to say. They are the worst in the league by multiple points, net rating points, and have been for the last couple of years. But in terms of the good stuff, it's you do kind of have a core here that you can imagine building around. You have Keontae George, you have Lauri Markkanen, you have Ace Bailey, and you have Walker Kessler. And at least what 3 of the 4 of those guys bring, and you're pretty confident Ace Bailey is going to be a good NBA player one day.
Were you surprised that Ace didn't make the Rising Stars roster? I mean, nobody gives a rip anymore, but I thought we'd see Ace in that game.
I was surprised at first, and then it'd been a minute since I kind of looked at the rookie stats. And so I looked last night, and it's the right call.
Okay.
I think even you could point to another couple guys that could have been selected over Ace. Like Will Richard in Golden State also is not going. I think, Ace was held back by the illness at the beginning of the season, the hip flexor in the middle. He's been held back, frankly, that Will Hardy chose to bench him to start the year and then has kind of only slowly put him into the starting lineup, that he's having him play as a tertiary player in starting lineups. Like most of these young guys who were drafted in the top 10 are getting the ball in their hands on a lot of plays and getting the chance to score a lot of points.
Yeah.
And, and the fact is that Ace hasn't really done that. And when he is on the floor, the Jazz are significantly worse, right? Like the plus minus numbers are about as bad as it gets with Ace Bailey in the starting lineup. And so, statistically, I don't know that there's an argument there. Do I think that he is not one of the top 10 players in this class? I don't agree with that. But in terms of just, how the NBA has to choose these kind of things, it has to be production based. I think that's the right call. And I don't think you can. I think you can argue that he's top 10 production-wise, but I do completely understand why the NBA doesn't have him there right now.
Your Vegas favorites to win Rookie of the Year as of now, it's still Cooper, although the gap has closed a little bit. Con Knippel is still behind him. Then it's VJ Edgecombe. Every time I watch VJ, I'm like, that kid, I was hoping he would fall. Derek Queen, even though the Pelicans are unserious, Cedric Coward, Jeremiah Fears, and Dylan Harper are your favorites to win Rookie of the Year as of now. What's your takeaway from this rookie class so far?
I mean, it's one of the best rookie classes we've seen in the last, maybe the best in the last 10 years.
Okay.
And I mean, I think all of these guys are going to be high level contributors, if not stars. I mean, like you said, VJ Edgecombe rules. So good on kind of both ends of the court. Needs to work on the efficiency offensively, but defensively already a contributor, and then offensively can take on some usage at times, which is cool for the Sixers. Obviously Cooper Flagg's been awesome in Dallas. We saw kind of the best of him in his 40-point game in Utah. Con Knippel, there's an argument he's been a better rookie than Cooper Flagg, which is incredible, but just plays the game so well, is shooting better than I think any rookie in NBA history at this point. It's like already as a rookie is rich man's Joe Ingles, which is fun. Derek Queen looks like a poor man's Jokic, or a poor man's Şengün. Just can't defend it all right now, but is a really good passing post big. There's just like a lot of fun players in this class, and I think that's if this were last year, Ace Bailey is easily in the rookie sophomore game, but it's a very good rookie class.
So less a knock on Ace and more a compliment to the depth of this class.
I think so, personally. Yeah.
All right. So let's move. So you referenced, and I agree with you, what we perceive to be the core that they have identified moving forward next season. So we'll take Lowry off, we'll take Keontae off, we'll take Walker off, we'll take Ace off. Okay, there are your four players. Boom, we got four we're going to go with. Just give me your thoughts on where we're at with this process and analyzing the Kyle Filipowskis of the world, the Isaiah Colliers of the world. We'll leave Walter Clayton Jr. aside, but we'll put Cody and Taylor in there. So those four, where are we at in the process?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's various levels of disappointment with all of those guys.
Okay.
And some of that's a little unfair because of where they were drafted, right? Kyle Filipowski, a second rounder, Isaiah at the end of the first, Bryce Sensabaugh at the end of the first. But none of them are contributing to winning basketball at this point.
Okay.
I think Cody Williams actually weirdly might be the closest to like maybe sort of helping you out, which I know is kind of crazy, but he just is better defensively than the other three. Taylor Hendricks is out of the rotation, which is a bummer. Frankly, the Jazz just need to send him to the G League if they're not going to play him.
Mm-hmm.
Cody, it's still not enough. Like as it stands, is not an NBA player. But you see that he's defending with effort, and you see that he is cutting and moving in transition, and you understand why the Jazz are showing him Corey Brewer tape, because that's shades of Corey Brewer. You can imagine him getting 10% better and then being a 10-year NBA career guy like Corey Brewer.
It would be a win.
It would be a win.
That would be a win, yeah.
Kyle Filipowski can't play the center position. He may be able to be a 4 and be okay.
Mm-hmm.
As a 5, he's way, way, way too soft inside.
Yeah.
Which is one of the softest players in the NBA, frankly. And so if you play him on the perimeter, maybe he can have like kind of a Trey Lyles career. Could make some sense. We'll see, but needs to get better on both ends for him to be in a good team's rotation. And then Bryce Sensabaugh can absolutely score. And it's funny, after he had his 40-point game, which, is awesome. That's proof of concept a little bit. But his teammates have been a little bit frustrated with how he's calling his own number a little bit. Is certainly not contributing on the defensive end. And so, those things, there are a lot of players, frankly, in the NBA who can score 40 points and have fallen out of the league.
Yep.
And Bryce Sensabaugh needs to realize and kind of get back to playing some defense, passing the ball, being part of an offense in order to be an NBA rotation player.
And the Collier stuff, is it just simple? Like, if you can't shoot in the league, you're not going to last?
I'm more worried. He's shooting better this year. I'm more worried about the defense at this point. What does he do? He's not good enough to be your ball in hand guy for a playoff team, right?
Right.
So what does he do without the ball in his hands?
Yeah.
And then on defense, he's as negative as it gets. And that's troubling. And, I said that about Keontae last year, and he's gotten better. And now Keontae's probably a 3 out of 10 defensively, which is actually a huge step from where he was before.
Right, yeah.
But Isaiah is probably a 1 out of 10 defensively right now, and that's a bummer. He needs to significantly improve.
So, I was talking about this with Smitty. We were breaking this down because, look, the consensus around Will seems to be he's the guy. Great coach, great young coach, came up the right way, Popovich tree, communicator, offensive brilliance, spacing, all the things. For the third straight year, the Jazz aren't just the worst defensive team in the NBA. They're the worst defensive team by far, and it's almost historically bad. Yes. 3 straight years. And look, I watched this team not near as much as I used to, but almost every single night. And when you look at the numbers, there are teams that are also unserious about competing with a talent discrepancy that are much better defensively. Yeah. What's fair to say? I mean, at some point, you got to ask, like, okay, we get it. You're not trying to win. You're holding on to the asset. I'm on board with all that. But it's not just, hey, that's not a very good defensive team. This is a historically bad defensive basketball team for 3 straight years. What's fair to say?
Yeah, and they've tried a new defensive system this year, right? Like Will Hardy talked about this in the offseason and in preseason. They looked at what happened over the last couple of years, looking at kind of drop big defense with Walker Kessler. Mm-hmm. And, we're last in the league and said, okay, that's not working. We're going to try to be more aggressive. We're going to try to bring more pressure at the point of attack. And see if that works, and it hasn't. Now, some of that, Walker Kessler is injured, isn't playing anymore. Mm. You are relying on the worst center rotation in the NBA and Nurkic and Kevin Love defensively, right? So that is certainly a part of what's going on, right? Like the Jazz's defensive ceiling is probably like 25th, but it is so bad from night to night, and we're not seeing consistent defensive development from some of these guys that you would like to see, like Taylor Hendricks was drafted as a defensive player, is not contributing on the defensive end. Cody Williams, I think, is in that same boat as well. It's contributing more on the defensive end, but I still wouldn't call him a plus defender. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, where is that development? Where is the scheme? Where is the defensive effort from night to night? And I don't think it's there. I've advocated for this before, and it tends to make people in the organization pretty mad when I say this, but I'm going to do so anyway. This team is crying out for a defensive coordinator, a proven defensive coach that can try to change the attitude and try to change the scheme and try to change everything about Utah Jazz defensive basketball right now. And I get that is harsh on Scott Morrison, their current defensive lead coach, and yet it's been 3 years. And if you are talking about competing next year, I do think it has to begin, sooner rather than later. And I'm not saying fire Scott Morrison in the middle of the season. I'm not saying hire a new guy in the middle of the season. I get it. But, as you start to evaluate what you're going to be doing this offseason, I think you need to get a new voice in there defensively.
What else is making them mad right now? And how did they have the nerve to be defensive when we're in year 4 of what's been a clunky rebuild and you have the historically worst defensive team in pro basketball for 3 years? How can they get mad at being criticized is my question.
I mean, it's human nature. I don't know.
But no, it's not human nature. This doesn't exist all over the place. I feel like there's this entitlement here, no. And don't tell me I'm not seeing what I'm not seeing, okay? I'm not going to have a political conversation today, but, I have eyes. Don't tell me I'm not seeing what I'm seeing. it's fair to be critical of an operation where there's data to indicate that you are not good at this. Now, can they become good at it? Sure. Do I see pieces falling into place? Yes. And a couple of breaks here, a couple of breaks there, a bunch of money to spend, maybe a supplement the growth. I can see the process, but I can also see what's happening right in front of my eyes today. Yeah. And that's all you can go off of.
Yeah, I agreed. And look, I think that's where my writing and kind of my analysis has tried to come from is just like, hey, as you know, I'm a math major, a stats guy, a nerd, whatever. And the numbers are so bad that they call out for help. And look, I get that. Yeah, the personnel is also as bad as it gets, right? Like on paper, it is one of the worst defensive rosters in the league. And yet, like, I still think they should be closer to the rest of the group than the rest of the NBA than they are, at least over the course of 3 seasons, right? I remember my first year covering the Jazz was the 2013-14 Jazz, and that was right after they traded Al Jefferson and Paul Millsap and all that. And the Jazz had the worst defense in the league with Al Jefferson as well. Al Jefferson goes to Charlotte. Under Steve Clifford, they have the 3rd best defense in the league. And here I was, I thought, the Jazz's defensive problems were because of Al Jefferson, and in large part they were. But also, in retrospect, Ty Corbin's coaching had a significant amount to do with it, right? I think we can acknowledge that 12 years later, as much as Ty Corbin was upset about that then, right?
Yeah.
So I take that experience and think of it as pretty similar to what we're seeing here with the Utah Jazz now, and think if they had something different, it should be in a better place.
Yeah,
could be in a better place.
Yeah, and it's certainly fair to point to things that aren't working, while at the same time try to understand that this is a difficult process where you broke it down brick by brick, and it's fun to see cool moments like Will Hardy winning his 100th game. On my friend text thread, one of them was like, wait, he only has 100 wins? Because it feels like he's been here for a long time. He also has 192 losses. I am hoping for a better day. I miss competitive spring basketball in Salt Lake City. It's one of my favorite things looking back on my career. Jazz playoff runs. There are very few things in our state that are better than like a Delta Center crowd when the Jazz are in the playoffs and have a chance to be awesome. I badly want that to happen soon.
Same. And, obviously it's good for us in the business, but it is just fun.
It's fun. Yes, exactly.
It is camaraderie. It is community. It is just awesome. And, the Jazz, when they started tanking, did not expect this tank to take that long.
Sure.
Right? Like they expected to trade Donovan and Rudy, get some picks back, get a first-round pick or 2, and then trade all the remaining picks for stars, right? And that hasn't happened. They have not been able to do kind of either part of that until recently to now, right? It's like, so we'll see, I give Jazz fans so much credit for their patience.
For
right?
sure.
Like, that the Delta Center is full on a night-to-night basis. I can't tell you how many stadiums I go to in the league, and they're just empty, even with better, the Atlanta Hawks are pretty good. They're not fun. They're not selling out every night. Right? It's amazing what's happening here in Utah.
Do you have a pulse on who they like? Should Lady Luck finally shine upon us and get the number 1 overall pick? There's some interesting dynamics with AJ at BYU living in Provo, with Cam and him being Carlos Boozer's son, and Booz working for the organization. Because look, you and I know the deal. They've shown the ability to draft. They've shown the ability to develop. Now they have to retain. So AJ in Provo, Booz's kid, maybe there's some of that there, but a lot of people think Peterson's the best player in the draft. Do you have a pulse on who they like?
I don't, and I've heard kind of secondhand things, but nothing I feel confident in saying out loud. And with, I just don't know. And I also think that I'm not sure that that's been decided yet, right? I still think the most interesting months of the college basketball season are to come. And I was thinking that last night, watching AJ really, really struggle last night. I thought he was pretty. That was to me his worst game of the season
for sure.
And but I still want to see him play the rest of the Big 12 schedule and in the tournament and see if he develops, because I do think he has developed in some ways from the beginning of this season. He does attack the rim a little bit differently, for example. So. Yeah, look, I don't think they've made up their mind yet. I've heard some things, but don't feel really confident in them. I don't think that like they have settled on AJ DeBanza being the number one guy because he went to BYU. I don't think that's the way they're thinking.
Last thing, I'll set you loose on this trade deadline right around the corner. The Jazz have been active recently, whether it's facilitating deals, trading a vet for some capital. What do you think is going to happen, if anything?
Yeah, that kind of stuff. I don't think there will be a major move made. I don't think they're going to be trading Lowry.
Yeah.
Even Nurkic, who looked like a potential trade guy at the beginning of the year, I think they'd rather kind of keep around and try to get him to be the team's backup center next year. They do have $10 million in cap space. That's the second most cap space in the league. That's a clear opportunity to take on somebody's contract and get a pick. I think they would be willing to kind of send out the Kyle Anderson contract and Kevin Love contract and that kind of deal as well. So there's some constructions around the league that make sense. Maybe taking on like a D'Angelo Russell deal, who's not playing at all in Dallas.
Yeah.
With Maxi Kleber in LA, not playing a ton. Getting, I think it's $11 million, if I remember right, for his contract. Getting him off the Lakers books would save them a ton of luxury tax. That kind of stuff, right? Like, so, but I don't expect a huge trade. I could even see them kind of moving on from one of the young players if there were a team kind of interested in the league, kind of in a Ochai Agbaji sort of way. Remember they traded Kelly Olynyk and Ochai to the Raptors just for another swing later on down the road. I think that could make some sense. But, I don't anticipate a big trade, and they aren't either.
All right, buddy. Well, thanks for the insight. Enjoy the game tonight. Good to see you. We'll chat soon, okay?
Sounds good. Thanks, man.
Andy Larson, Salt Lake Tribune, sltriv.com, at Andy B. Larson on social media. We'll catch a break and bring in Dave Fox. Coming up on ESPN 700. is live in studio. Which hipster young band did you bring us today?
That's Charlie XCX. You know who that is?
XCX?
Yeah, Charlie XCX.
I have no idea.
That's
who
her
that
stage
is.
name. Her actual name, by the way, is Charlotta Atkinson. She's British. Charlotta Atkinson.
Is that a singer, a
But
DJ, or
yeah.
she's a singer?
Charlotta XCX. Yeah.
That sounded very like Earthscapes
but
type
that's me.
stuff. Well, I thought
when
you
I
were
want to be
like
in a mood.
I thought you were like house music.
Well, I'm in that too. No, I love house music.
It's so weird.
But sometimes, when I was a disco DJ, every 4 or 5 songs you played something slow,
Disco Dave.
so they could dance, and then you ramped it back up.
New
that's
segment idea. KUTV Talking Sports. Disco Dave brings it back.
Let's do it.
I want you to dress like a DJ and do one of your highlight shows one night, just like Disco Dave back in the 70s.
I have a satin suit. We'll run the show like at midnight.
Did you meet Kathy during your Disco Dave days?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
that's how you
funny
pulled that
story.
off. Okay.
We right over here. It was a disco called the Broadway,
Okay.
just right around the corner here.
Yeah.
Over on Main Street.
Okay.
And she was the snack bar girl, serving drinks and stuff.
Okay.
And it was non-alcoholic because it was
I
was
wouldn't.
for teens.
I know who Kathy is. I wouldn't imagine there was alcohol
and
involved.
she wanted nothing to do with me.
Because you were like the hot shot
Yeah,
DJ.
I was like the hot shot,
Yeah.
satin suit, and all she was there to do was work and then go home.
Okay.
She didn't get into all that. She could have cared less who I was.
So she was intimidated by the hot shot DJ in the satin suit.
Oh, she wasn't intimidated at all. In fact, I accidentally once kind of gave her a little pat where I probably shouldn't have. Just, hey, how are you?
David.
I know. Oh man, I almost lost a limb.
So how did you pull
Then
it
I ended
off?
up married to her.
How did you pull it off?
Just slowly. I don't know, to be honest.
So I'm glad you did.
I just lucked out.
Glad you did. She's a wonderful woman. You've
Yeah.
raised a great family, and you ended up. So it was kind of like the bad boy and like the good girl.
Yeah, exactly.
You think
Kinda-
you're,
she
you
kinda
think of
saved
your,
me.
do you think of yourself as a bad boy?
Well, I don't know if I'd say bad boy, but
No.
I'd probably be still spinning the wax if it hadn't been for her.
Spinning. Is that what they used to call it?
Yeah.
On the ones
Spinning
and
the
the
wax.
twos, spinning the wax. Okay. I'm telling you, I think that segment idea would be a phenomenal idea.
That would be good.
All right, Dave. Actually, let me get your thoughts on this breaking news that Bill Belichick is not going to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, excuse me, it's his first try. 8 Super Bowls, winning 6 of them. I mean, there's got to be a Goodell political something going on here, right? If Bill Belichick can't get in, who can get in?
That's a great point, your last point right there. And I'm not a New England fan, and never was. I don't
Neither am
know.
I.
I don't think you are.
course
Obviously, you're
not.
a Jets guy.
Right,
so-
right.
And I've never been an overly big fan of Belichick, even less with him at North Carolina. And, the entourage, i.e., just his girlfriend, I guess, is his entire entourage.
Yeah.
But in this case, the facts are there. I mean, it's stunning. And I don't believe that'll last very long. I think,
There will be.
crazy.
I'm actually looking right now on social. Something is going to be reported on this, whether it's a Robert Kraft thing. Although Goodell doesn't like Kraft, there has to be something political behind this that has kept Bill Belichick out of the Football Hall of Fame. Anyway, what do you make of the Super Bowl? We've got Seattle, we've got New England. Seattle is about a 4.5-point favorite as of now. I mean, again, Jet fan over here, never a Patriot. We got Connor O'Toole, former Ute, on Seattle's roster. I do like the Sam Darnold arc where suddenly he is. How about this? The first USC quarterback to ever start in a Super Bowl is Sam Darnold.
I saw that.
Isn't that
and
wild?
that floored me. But then you start thinking about the history of USC, and there was more running backs, or maybe even a few receivers.
But a cool redemption arc story for
no,
Sam
it is.
Darnold.
Absolutely, and it's funny because we talk so much about how it's so nice to have a new Super Bowl matchup, not the one we've seen so a lot, and yet this is a rematch, one of the most famous ones, of course, the famous interception.
Right.
But if you think about that, there's no one associated with either one of those teams, not coaching, not players. I mean, nothing. So they're two entirely different. The makeup is completely different.
Yeah.
I love what Vrabel's done. Saw the other day, as you know, the first guy to ever win a Super Bowl as a player and a coach for the exact same team. He had a couple of catches throughout the year when he played for the Patriots. But I will say this, Spence. I was born in Seattle, so I guess I'm a Seahawks fan.
No, you don't do that, Dave. You're a Cowboys fan. You're not allowed
but I was born
to do
in Seattle.
that.
I grew up in Dallas.
But you can't have multiple
I
teams.
have a Seahawks hat.
That does. Yeah, I'll go buy a Seahawks hat this afternoon. Just because you have
there.
Okay, you can own that. Okay, then you're not allowed to cheer for the Cowboys when they're good again.
But I grew up in Dallas.
Porter.
Porter, back me up on this. I grew up in Dallas.
Pick a lane. You can't have both. Which team do you want?
I was born in Seattle. I moved when I was 4 to the Bay Area, by the way.
I'm aware of the logistics, Dave. Which team do you want? You can't have both.
Out of Dallas and Seattle?
Yes, and henceforth and forever.
I can have both this year because one's done playing.
So what you're saying is you'll take Seattle in this game?
Yes.
As will I.
Well, but I'm with you. I have absolutely nothing. I've never been to Boston, but I do not care for any of their teams, not the Celtics, not the Red Sox, not what's the soccer team? Don't tell me. Revolution.
Nice, Dave.
And you're talking RSL host
indeed,
right here. I didn't want to
indeed.
embarrass myself.
Wait. Let me follow up. You've lived on this earth for 92
Never been
years,
to Boston.
and you have never been to Boston.
Isn't that weird?
Here's what I'll say: good, not great city. You
Okay.
don't put it on your
Not like a bucket
it's
list.
not a bucket list thing.
Yeah.
You don't need to check that box. We lived in Belmont when I was a kid. My brother,
Belmont.
Massachusetts, right outside of
because
Boston.
I lived in Belmont, California. How
No,
funny is
I'm
that?
from the right coast, Dave.
Okay.
My brother and his wife and their kids lived in Boston for about a decade, so we spent a lot of time there. And you can go to Boston and have a good time, but I actually think Seattle is a superior city.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to go spend a weekend, I would say spend it in Seattle,
I've
not
spent
Boston.
a ton of time in Seattle.
Love
obviously,
Seattle,
but
yeah.
So that's where I'm going. I with you. I mean, the Darnold story's fun.
Yeah.
So is the Drake May story, to be honest with you. The Vrabel story is phenomenal.
Here's what I'll say. This New England Patriot team is 10 times more likable than the Belichick-Brady stuff.
By far.
Drake May is awesome. Vrabel's a hell of a coach and a good leader. I have a lot more respect, and they're just more likable than Belichick and Brady. It felt like the Death Star all the time in New England. Here's what I'm not prepared for, because this is Drake May's second season, and Vrabel's a young-ish coach. This could be the start of another generation of Patriot dominance. It could be.
And we kept waiting for the young quarterback to implode. He can't get to the Super Bowl. He's too young, and he just keeps on going and going and going. And I mean, you can't fight that. But that's Seattle. That defense is really, really good. And again, I get stuck in my head about Darnold and his previous years and his previous stops and how miserable those were.
He's looked so good, though. I've been so impressed.
He's a whole different guy.
And he was the only quarterback out of that entire cluster, for the Jets for like 20 years, where they drafted him. I'm like, all right, I like that one.
Yeah.
Zach was a horrible call. We could go down the list. Rosen. I mean, there's so many bad quarterbacks the Jets have drafted. But I always thought Darnold had some juice. I mean, we saw him play against the Utes when he was at Southern Cal.
Yeah.
Big kid, he's not afraid to take a risk. That Rams-Seahawks game was awesome.
I was got to tell you, I was kind of pulling for the Rams.
I was all on for the Rams.
I love Stafford. I love his family, and his daughters. And, man, he had those opportunities. That fourth down and goal. And you could just see the anguish leave McVay's face when that pass fell incomplete. But, hey, it is what it is. And still looking for – it's still Super Bowl Sunday.
Well,
I mean, I'm looking forward to it.
It'll be fun. It's interesting because a lot of the conversation is about the Darnold redemption arc, and it should be because he's in the Super Bowl. Matt Stafford, after leaving Detroit, there's a little bit of a redemption arc here as well, because he was kind of cast off as like, all right, talented dude, big arm, can't win the big game, because he was surrounded by mostly incompetence during that Lions run. McVay takes him off the scrap heap, trades Jared Goff and multiple first-round picks to Detroit after they went to the Super Bowl to bring Stafford in, and then they win the Super Bowl. And I think over the past 4 years since Stafford joined McVay, he has really vaulted up the list of like all-time greats. I mean, he might be a top 10, 12 quarterback of all time. He's 38. Maybe one more year, but the Stafford takeaway over the past 4 or 5 years, I think is pretty cool because I've always liked him.
Well, and there's other characters on that team surrounding. Obviously, we all know Puka very well from going quarterback to high school and college here. I just thought it would have been a fun story. How about when they won the Super Bowl and your buddy Weddle came out to help?
Yeah. It's awesome.
Crazy was that?
Puka becomes the second player all time to go for 2,000 yards from scrimmage, including the playoffs. The first, Cooper Kupp, who now plays for Seattle, who won a Super Bowl with the Rams. So cool story. Random question
loving it.
for you, okay? Because you do a lot of high school football.
Yep.
We had Casey Evans in studio yesterday. Casey,
New coach at Olympus.
Yes, Casey played his college ball for Witt at the University of Utah. He just took the head job at Olympus, as you said. He hires Haloti Nada to be his associate head coach, as you should.
And by the way, Nada was there already as an assistant, but he's now the associate head coach.
And if you want somebody to have your back, you hire Haloti Nada. Let's be very clear.
Yeah. But both literally and figuratively.
But no, that's what I'm saying. But you have more knowledge and perspective on the landscape of high school football than I do. I really don't know much about it at all. But talking to Casey was really interesting, and learning about things like parents faking divorces to change, where they live so the kid can go play for this coach, or somebody faking like their kid was adopted by their sister so they can play out. Like, I'm old enough to remember, hey, here is your boundary. You live here, so you play for Olympus. You live here, so you play for Brighton. You live here, so you play for Highland. When did all of this turn into such chaos?
Let me tell you how crazy it's gotten. I follow a page on Instagram. It's called Slinging the Pill. And
Easy.
Well, that's what he calls it.
Well, I hope he's talking about football.
No, he's absolutely talking about football. Good. But he's started posting, and I'm just going to show this to you. The camera's not on. He's starting posting transfer alert for high school.
That kid's name is Britton Johnson?
Yeah, isn't that funny? A different Britton Johnson. But as you go through the feed, there's a couple of these. Here's another one. I mean, he's just these various. This is high school
football. Is this in-state stuff?
These are in-state. Here's another one.
Skyridge. Oh, my gosh.
His kid's going from Skyridge to the Canyon, the new school, Cedar Valley.
So these are like 16, 17-year-olds, and they're
posting
covered
these as transfers.
Huh.
And yet, this is not an open enrollment state. You're supposed to get, these approvals.
That's what I thought.
And going back to your point, my parents got divorced. My mom's now living in the Boundary, or my uncle lives in the Boundary. Whatever the case may be, you got to just get an address. I don't know how this is happening with such regularity, because, I've seen as recently as 2 or 3 years ago where they were shutting people down from this. And now it's being broadcasted on Instagram, these transfers. Dude, it's unbelievable.
Well, pardon my ignorance here, because, again, I am learning all of this in real time. I don't cover high school sports. We have enough to do with college and pro. Are these kids getting paid? Like, are schools and coaches paying players and parents for them to come play for their high school?
Look, I can't imagine that's happening yet. Some of these coaches are barely getting paid, other than
but there are certain members of certain communities that have a lot of money that might be supporting certain coaches in certain schools.
I don't even want to think that's happening yet. I can't even imagine that's and the players I just listed, none of these players are like, going to take you suddenly to the state championship game. So I don't know that if it's to that degree. Now, if a guy like Helaman Kasuga, for instance, you remember he was at Corner Canyon for 2 years.
I have no idea who this person is.
Helaman Kasuga was a senior at Corner Canyon this year, led him to the state championship. He's going to play for Texas A&M.
Very cool.
He played his freshman and sophomore years at Timpview.
Okay.
And then suddenly transferred to Corner Canyon.
Jackson Dart transferred, right, to Corner Canyon?
Jackson Dart played 3 years at Roy.
And then he ended up at Corner Canyon.
And then he ended up at Corner Canyon, which was the best thing he ever did, by the way, because he was getting no looks at Roy, and then his senior year, suddenly everybody's offering him. He ends up, remember, he goes to USC.
Yeah.
And then when Lincoln Riley comes in, that's when he joins Lane Kiffin, and the rest is history. Now he's with the Giants.
Doesn't Jackson have a brother?
Yeah, Diesel Dart. He's still at Corner Canyon. His senior year is coming up. He's a defensive back.
Man, if your name is Diesel Dart, you better be a good football player.
Oh, he's a good football player.
Is he at Corner Canyon?
He's at Corner Canyon, which, by the way, as you know, Eric Kerr, you do know this. He left Corner Canyon.
I interviewed Coach Kerr like 2 weeks ago.
Right. He's up at Weber. Good for him. I'm happy for him. That's a big jump to go from high school to college. I almost said pro.
So it is at this point. So if I'm drawing a straight line here, it sure seems a lot of these kids end up at Corner Canyon.
Yeah, none of these I just showed you were headed that direction, but they will. Now, the Corner Canyon has a new coach, Casey Sotera. He was Eric's defensive coordinator for years. He's been at Brighton. So now Brighton's looking for a coach because he took over at Corner Canyon. But you're right, Corner Canyon, who wouldn't want to go? They had a quarterback, Devin Brown, who, by the way, I think he's transferred to Weber State. He's rejoining Eric Kerr at Weber State. He's been all over.
Okay.
And he came from Arizona. Now, legitimately, he moved into Utah in the Corner Canyon boundaries because he moved from Arizona. But he moved to the boundaries of the school he wanted to play at.
But did he move with his parents? Or is you're going to stay
up here?
The family moved up here, okay.
So that, that worked out well for him. And although he's kind of bound, he originally signed for and went to Ohio State, never played, so he's moved around a little bit.
Let me ask you a question that you do not have to answer on air. This feels like extremely chaotic to me. And look, we cover the college football transfer portal, obviously, with the in-state interest. I didn't realize it had permeated into high school the way that it has. Is it known, like the schools out there that are clearly like circumventing the rules? Do people? I'm not asking you to say who they are, but is it known like exactly which schools are?
Well, I will tell you that I've had coaches tell me, oh yeah, that guy, of course.
Okay.
That kind of thing.
Okay.
But it's weird, Spence. And then there will be hundreds of kids in the transfer portal or whatever you want to call it. Some of them will be denied. And the UHSAA has new rules now when you transfer. Like you have to, unless it's like legit and you have a house there, you have to sit out 5 games, half the season. If you transfer a second time, you have to sit out a whole year. But it's a headache. The executive director of the High School Activity Association, Rob Cuff, good friend of mine, love him to death.
Oh, I know who Rob is.
He's retiring. They announced that just last week.
Jeff Clough is the assistant director.
Jeff's
is that Rob's
good friend?
Is that Rob's brother?
No, that's Clough and Cuff.
Oh, there's
Cuff,
an L there.
C-U-F-F.
My bad.
Yeah. Rob's brother, Ryan Cuff, is the head coach at American Fork basketball.
So
the Cuff family.
Okay, no, I've heard the
BYU,
name.
yeah.
I'm going to ask another really ignorant question. When it comes to the UHSAA, is there so much chaos that they've just kind of thrown their hands up? And
I wouldn't say they've thrown their hands up. They've tried to refine the rules a little bit, but they still have hearings to approve transfers and things like that, as far as I know. But I don't know. I talked briefly with Rob, and I'm excited for him for his next chapter.
What's he doing?
He wants to do. I don't know if he's going to do anything. He's a terrific guy. It's not my place to say, but
was he a coach at some point?
Yeah, he was
basketball, right?
His brother still is.
Okay.
And he was he coached at a couple different places, an assistant in that. But his brother Ryan Cuff, who played at BYU, is still the head coach at American Fork.
Oh,
but
okay.
If I were in his shoes, I would certainly be of the thought that this is exhausting. I don't even want to deal with this anymore.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's the case with him. He's a great leader of that, and he doesn't leave till middle of summer. But he's done a lot of good for the UHSAA. But that, I would think, this is just me thinking out loud, it's got to be a little bit of a headache, what they've had to go through.
Does he do stuff with the Utah Hall of Fame?
Yeah, he does.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's where I've met Rob before.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I'm learning.
He's on their board.
Learning all this in real time as we sit here and speak.
And he's on the National Football Foundation. I see him there all the time. He's got a couple different hats that he wears. A great guy.
I mean, next thing we're going to be covering Pop Warner football when this 8-year-old is moved from Provo to Fruit Heights so he can play for Davis or whatever. This is weird
There's a
stuff.
little of that
man.
going on already.
You stop it. Are you
kids that don't like a certain organization, so they'll leave that organization and go play with a different one?
Can we leave the kids out of this?
I'm telling you that's already, you're late on that one.
I feel like all of this is killing. Like, think about when you were a kid, what you loved to do. You just loved to play the game with your friends. That's all you wanted to do. And if there's a voice from a parent or a coach who's like, hey, that 8-year-old is awesome, I want him to come play for me. What you're doing is you're taking an 8-year-old away from his friends. So stop it.
Yep.
This is ridiculous,
There's
David.
a little of that going on.
You know what? I'm going to run for the president of the UHSAA or whatever.
Okay.
Do you run for it? How do you get elected?
No, I don't think it's not a public office in that respect.
I will rule.
You know, I told my buddy Jeff Clough, you just mentioned him, I said, you need to go for this job. And he says, well, he hasn't left yet. I mean,
I am going to rule with an iron fist. No more messing with the kids. I'm running on the platform. Leave the kids alone.
Well, here's what you do. If you really want to just throw your hands up, do like Arizona, just make it open enrollment.
It feels like it is.
Well, it kind of is getting that way. And you touched on something when you talked about money. I mean, how far away are we from NIL in high school?
Do you have Rob Cuff's phone number?
Yeah.
Will you text it to Porter? I'm going to get him on.
You should, actually.
I am. I want to ask. I'm just going to be like, hey,
I'll give it to you
what's
guys.
going on, man? What's the deal here?
In fact, I need to have him on, too. I tried to schedule him. He's been in St. George all week, so I'll do it next week. But, yeah, it's crazy what's going on, man.
Yeah, I mean, having Casey in studio yesterday was eye-opening.
That's cool that you had him in.
That's my guy. I love Casey.
Yeah.
He's good people.
That's a good job.
Yeah,
He's
I've
got
known
at
him forever.
Olympus.
Yeah, and I actually,
they're a good team.
I didn't even know that he was really into coaching. So when I saw the news, I know he's been coaching his kid. His kid is at Utah now as a walk-on.
Yeah.
Morgan Scalley's son goes to Olympus. Andrew Scalley, who apparently is a really good quarterback. And I think Halodi's boy is there as well, or maybe his nephew. Yeah, his boy. So if you can get like the Ute pipeline, I mean, just get all of anyone who's related to Halodi and build a team.
He's going to be a good team. And and they redid the regions, so he's, our alma mater, Bountiful.
Shout out.
Woods Cross and Viewmont are in that same region with Alta, Olympus, and Brighton.
Oh, so we hate them then.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
Be careful with that.
I didn't realize that.
Well, you've already had him on, so that's too late. But,
Who's Bountiful's football coach?
Jason Freckleton.
Shout out Jason Freckleton. Yeah. When did Larry Wall retire?
Oh, a long time ago.
That's my guy.
They went through 2 or 3 coaches.
Oh.
And Jason was an assistant.
I'm getting old. Larry was the football coach.
Larry was the GOAT. I mean,
and the best dude.
His name's on the stadium at Bountiful High School.
Oh, I should go back
Larry
at some
Wall's
point.
Field, yeah.
No, Larry was the he taught the weight room class when I was there, and he just let us skip the entire time because we were basketball players. It was great. Right. Is Bountiful keeping up with the Joneses here? Because one thing
they
I know,
won the state title 2 years ago. Emerson Geilman went to BYU.
But let's be clear about something. One thing we can say about Bountiful is that we don't cheat. Okay, so we are not on the wrong side of any of this stuff. We are clean. Do not investigate us. One thing I can tell you is I know that the Bountiful Braves, which they are,
yep, I'm with you on that.
Follow the rules to the T. Is that fair to say?
I would absolutely say that, and I know that from experience because I have a grandson that plays for Bountiful. So, and a son-in-law who's an assistant coach.
So your grandson moved into Bountiful so he could play for the Braves?
Correct.
Dave?
No, but he went
So you're
through
part of the
process.
problem. Oh, my gosh.
He had to sit out 5 games.
Okay.
That's 2 years ago.
Is he good?
Ancient history. He's really good.
What position?
Well, he played backup quarterback last year, but this year he wants to be on the field more, and they had another kid. So I think he's going to play like linebacker. He is a beast.
Why don't you make some calls?
He's like a 6'2", just cut.
Why don't you start throwing your weight around and make some calls?
Jason doesn't listen to me.
Let's get him on the field.
We've already argued about it.
What's your grandkid's name?
Madden Parks.
He was named Madden Parks?
That's his
then
name.
He better be a good football player.
Oh, he's really good.
That's a lot of pressure.
He's really good.
Okay.
One of these days, a coach is going to discover that, and
then you're going
to the roof.
Then you're going to move him to Corner Canyon, and he's going to.
Well, he's going to be a senior next year, so he'll finish out. But who knows? Let's get some college coaches looking at him.
Which one of your children has a child this age?
Lauren.
Lauren,
Casey.
He's
the second. The oldest is Dax. He's on a mission. Comes home in 6 months.
I've lost track. How many grandkids now in the Fox family? 9.
Well, we just had the twins.
That's right.
Baby twins.
Everyone good?
And they're one. They're all great.
All right, good.
Thanks for asking.
All right. Well, this segment has been called Spence Learns About High School Football in Real Time from
there
Dave
you go.
Fox. So,
hey, we love high school football. Me and Frank and Alema, we broadcast about 30 games a year.
Shout out Alema, not Frank, but shout out Alema.
You love Frank.
No, we'll talk off air about that. All right, what do we have coming up on Talking Sports tonight?
Well, tonight is Talking Jazz, and I have Lauren Green.
Love Lauren. She's awesome.
She's terrific.
Yep.
And some of the talk. You know what? She has a great topic on how Keontae George learned to adjust his shot. Very specific. You need to watch that. It's really cool.
Oh, I will.
And Jenna Fink's also on. She has a story on that Los Jazz deal they had where that group from the Latin American countries, Ryan brought them up over the last few weeks.
Jenna's my BFF. Did you not notice?
Yeah, on Sunday night. Mm-hmm. So you had a name for the Adam segment. What is?
Well, Adam named our segment Adam and Spence. I mean, there wasn't a lot of creativity
so no creative name yet for you and Jenna's filling in because Adam's on some sabbatical.
That's right.
Anyway, and then Thursday night, we have 5 Questions with Spence. We haven't done that in a few weeks.
Yeah, excited for it.
And then, of course, you'll be back on Sunday night as you do every Sunday. And I'm excited. In just a few weeks, you and Dunny start talking RSL every Thursday night. The show that you helped create, you finally get to host.
Well, I've been the program director of Talking Sports for 15 years. Nobody knows about it,
now
though.
Now we finally got you on board.
Great to see you, my friend.
Same to you.
Dave Fox. More next. Keep it here on ESPN 700. All right, let's go. Drive at 5 time, Tuesday afternoon style. It has been yet another warm, mild Utah, air quotes, winter day outside, about 45 degrees and sunny here in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah. And as it is every single day, it is good to have you along for the ride. Spence Checketts behind the mic. Porter Larson producing the show today. We've got a couple of big-time storylines that have dropped throughout the course of the news cycle. We'll kind of update you on. The Utah Jazz are playing basketball tonight, but it is a late tip. It's at 8 o'clock. It's going to be on NBC or Peacock. I think that's the only nationally televised game the Jazz have on their schedule this year. I'll have to check that. Lauri Markkanen is going to play. Keontae George is out. So is Yusuf Nurkic. Utah Mammoth are in action right now against the defending Stanley Cup champs, although if the playoffs started today, I don't think Florida would be involved. Just underway in the first, scoreless there as the Mammoth are in action. A lot of conversation today about the breaking news that Bill Belichick is not going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, which is a wild thing to consider. 8 Super Bowls, not a first-time ballot Hall of Famer. Now, he'll get in, and he'll probably get in next year. I would imagine there's something political here. Of course, Bill Belichick, the New England Patriots, did not endear themselves to a lot of people because they were cheaters. Is there a Roger Goodell angle here? Robert Kraft and Roger Goodell going back and forth about the Hall of Fame stuff for years. So I don't know. It's kind of a surprising thing when you consider the magnitude of that New England Patriot dynasty. So that broke about an hour ago. The Bill Belichick is not in the Hall of Fame as a first ballot Hall of Famer. A ton of news on the coaching side of things today. The Broncos have fired their offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi, after losing the AFC title game. It feels a little harsh based off the conditions, but this is a results-oriented business. The Buffalo Bills have a new head coach. It's their former offensive coordinator, Joe Brady. Under Joe Brady's play calling, Josh Allen, of course, the MVP of the league. So they decided to stay in-house. It's a 5-year deal for Joe Brady, who's been coaching Josh Allen since 2022. Mike McCarthy is a Pittsburgh boy, and he was emotional today, introduced to Steeler Nation as their new head coach. The New York Jets fired their offensive coordinator, so I guess that's something. Tanner Eggstrand is out, as if that was the entire issue for the most anemic franchise in pro football. After Brian Daboll was turned down as the Buffalo Bills head coach, he goes to Tennessee to coach with Robert Saleh as the Titans offensive coordinator, and Mike McDaniel, who was also a finalist for the Buffalo job, has landed in L.A. for the Chargers. He is going to work for Jim Harbaugh. So a busy day as far as the news cycle concerning NFL coaches go. Last night we had a big-time college basketball atmosphere in Provo, where the number one team in the country was able to survive at the death, beating BYU 86-83. Arizona is really good. They were up 19 in the second half, and they were up 11 with 62 seconds left. Mad scramble at the end saw BYU nearly take that one, but Rob Wright III was able to beat the Arizona guard Jaden Bradley, but it was the Braden Burries kid who came from the weak side to get a massive block, and Arizona was able to survive. BYU will have another chance to get a signature win. It's the one thing they don't have just yet, but they will be taking on Kansas coming up on Saturday with an opportunity to get that signature win. When you look at the landscape of the Big 12, even though BYU has a tremendous amount of talent on paper, they're probably the 5th or the 6th best team. Probably Arizona won by far. Then I'd probably go Houston, Iowa State, and then Texas Tech, and then probably BYU. The winner of the BYU-Kansas game kind of exists in that space. Utah basketball back at it, trying to get back on the winning track. They've got 2 home games before their trip to Kansas, Oklahoma State and Arizona State at home, and then they're going to travel to Kansas. So it is that time of year where a lot of the coverage will be moved over into the basketball space, both college and pro. We're just a few days away from turning our calendars to February, and the NBA trade deadline is February the 5th. Not a lot of stuff out there concerning the Jazz. There's a lot of rumors about some big-time names that could potentially be on the move, but only time will tell concerning what the landscape of the NBA looks like. Of course, we do have the Super Bowl set, Super Bowl 60 between Seattle and New England. The Seahawks are a slight favorite. They're getting 4 in the hook from most sports books in Vegas. Speaking of the big game is almost here. And there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. So close the season right out with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. You can find your community on Prize Picks now. With the new social feeds feature, you can share Prize Picks with your friends, copy lineups from winners with a single click, copy lineups you like, or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You can even follow Prize Picks partners like us and tail or fade our picks with just one click. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup, because on Prize Picks, it is good to be right. We will catch a break. Don't forget, Utah women's basketball tonight comes your way at 6:45 against West Virginia. So a big one for Coach Pete and his Lady Utes. So keep that in mind. But we'll say goodnight at 6 on the program. So keep it right here on ESPN 700. All right, final segment of the program today on this Tuesday afternoon, where the weather continues to be 45 degrees and sunny with no snow. According to our guy, Chase Porter, you are the weather expert. In fact, you know what? Let's dig into this for a moment. According to our guy, Chase from KUTV, this is officially, in the history of them recording this, the least amount of snow Salt Lake City has received.
Oh, yeah. By a wide margin. Up to this point, we were at like 14 times this. Obviously, zero snow is is going to be a record low. Not great, Spence. Not great.
Well, I mean, and I've got the forecast pulled up. There's nothing in the 10-day. Oftentimes, we get most of the bench snow February and March anyway. Mm-hmm. But again, you are our weather expert. I just look at the app and I listen to Chase. What do you make of this? What are your sources saying in weather?
Well, here's one thing. When you rely on what's called lake effect snow, where as the storms cross over giant salty lakes out in your desert and bring moisture up and then drop like a lot of snow.
Mm-hmm.
We don't just get snow in the high desert for nothing. It's because we have a giant lake that, kind of helps the snow accumulate.
That is no longer very giant.
Exactly.
Okay.
The Severe Lake is like gone. We're building data centers down there. So like if you want lake effect snow, you need a lake. The other thing is we're currently in La Nina rather than El Nino.
Wait, is that Spanish for the Nino?
Spanish for the Nina.
Shout out Chris Farley.
It's when like the sea temperatures are cooler.
Okay.
Which makes it so that there's more of like a tropical weather pattern.
I see.
That's why you've got like a bunch of hurricanes and whatnot, where we are dealing with less, right? You're getting a bunch of weather east and whatnot, and less here. But it's a whole bunch of stuff going on.
It's been wild. Over the weekend, I'm getting pictures from my family in the Northeast of them getting smacked with snow. They're like using their snow blowers and they're having a shovel to get into their house. And one of my sister-in-law, she lives in Carmel, Indiana. She said, Spence, how much snow is out there? I'm like, none. Literally, I've not shoveled once all year long. And look, I do not want to ever shovel. I don't enjoy it. I'm not one that enjoys getting smoked by snow. But This feels like something that could be causing some detrimental effects to our community. Is that fair to say?
I was at a water share meeting.
Wait, what? You go to water share meetings?
Yeah.
You just moonlighted water share meetings.
No, I have water shares, so you got to go vote, do the thing.
Got it. Okay.
It's getting dicey out there when there's no water, and then you have issues with municipalities and folks not necessarily putting the water in the right places, and then you get on top of that, no snow. It makes some farmers and folks around town weary and I guess nervous. So yeah, there's tension already about a lot of the water stuff in Utah, and it's only going to get worse unless we get more snow. Now, here's the one thing: while snowpack is super light, soil moisture, which is another reading we get, is actually not terrible right now.
Obviously,
because of what was like a record-breaking October and November on the rain side.
Okay. So our soil's hanging in there.
But that only lasts so long. I mentioned El Nino, La Nina.
Again, earlier. Spanish for the Nina.
El Nino events, which we had like a few years ago when we just got dumped with snow.
Yeah.
Usually that's a year. That's a year thing.
Uh-huh.
La Nina can be like a multi-year process.
Okay.
So we might be in it for the long haul.
Huh. Well, pray for snow. I mean, didn't we do that at one point? And
it worked. I think.
Was that the year we all prayed when we got hit with snow?
We did get hit pretty bad the year after. Now,
did you see John Oliver's piece? Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I mean, I'm in favor of praying for snow.
Hey, whatever works.
But I'm also in favor of pragmatic steps to curb water usage and that stuff.
I'm just solution based.
There we go.
That's what be about solutions. That's what I'm about. So if it's praying, if it works, go ahead and pray. Or if it's, what are the other things that we should do? You cannot say do not water the golf courses. Outside of that, what are the things that we can do?
Okay, maybe just not build another golf course every 2 weeks.
We have enough golf courses.
A lot of the data centers and whatnot use a lot of water and are saying that we can't have publicly shared information about how much water they're using.
Oh.
That's not cool.
Huh.
There is, and listen, pro-farmer, there is a lot of overusage by particular farms and farmers.
Who are they? Let's call them out.
Big ones.
The Duttons?
The big, flood your field farmers that,
Got it.
They don't pay attention to it as much.
Okay.
Because they have so many water shares.
We'll start paying attention, please. How about that?
Again, there are programs, too, that the Utah Division of Water Resources can help you, better use your water.
You are so educated on this. I am wildly impressed. Keep going.
The state of Utah just bought the Utah Magnesium plant, which is on the shore of Great Salt Lake.
Okay.
They went bankrupt. They used way too much water and polluted too much water and polluted the air. Mm-hmm. So that's a good step. More of that kind of thing, where you're actually hitting the companies and industries that are making this an issue. I don't know.
You're cooking over here. As the kids would say, I'm going to let you finish.
I'll cook on water.
I'm impressed.
We could do a whole episode on water.
I have very little water knowledge. When you started to explain the lake effect, I could put 2 and 2 together because I'll go up north to see my family and I'll look out and like, where did it go? When I was growing up, it was a rather large body of water.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a big part of it with our snow, right? You don't go to deserts around the world and see snow all the time because they don't have giant lakes that have that effect on it. So that's a big part of it. And I think as you saw, state leaders yesterday started pushing, we need snow for the Olympics, so we need to fill the Salt Lake up. Now, I'll say we need water for other reasons, not just the Olympics.
But the water golf courses.
That too.
Uh-huh. No, I mean, look, I am thinking about this through the prism of how there are a lot of people that are already turned off by the inversion and our lack of air quality. Yep. And there are a lot of people that move to our state because we have the reputation of having literally the best snow in the country and some of the best snow in the world.
And those snowstorms also clear out the air.
Exactly.
When you have those patterns.
I'm just wondering if people are going to start being like, why do I live here? If the air's bad and we don't have snow and I can't ski, like maybe I'm going to bounce. The fact that Deer Valley lost that aerial show to Lake Placid in the Northeast is wild to me to consider. So this is, I mean, it feels like this is something that could have a lot of ramifications.
Very much so. Yeah. Very much so. You're talking about industry. You're talking about business. You're talking about like our tourism. And then you get really down to the nitty gritty. You need water to drink and grow food. So also
fair. Well, there you go. Final segment brought to you by the
Utah Division of Water Resources.
The Utah Division of Water Resources. Are they
not officially?
Are they doing a good job?
A lot of people there, yes, because they it's science based. They know what they're doing.
Okay,
but they can only do so much. Yeah. They can only tell your legislators so much and tell us so much.
Got it.
They mostly just track stuff and try to help people figure it out.
Well, shout out to those folk. Pray for water, I guess. Snow, rain. Seemed to work last time. All right, Utah women's hoops tonight. It is a big one. West Virginia, good team, top 25 team. So stay tuned for that. Coming up in about 45 minutes. Porter, what comes our way on a Wednesday edition of the show?
On a Wednesday edition of The Drive, we'll talk some hoops with Tim McMahon for the NBA Daily Assist, Craig Bolerjack on the other side, Kurt Schmidt on some RSL and MLS offseason, and then I'm hoping for our friend Coach P, may have our friend Tony P, a few options still on the table for 4 o'clock.
All right, there you go. So join us for a Wednesday show. We will get you halfway through that work week and one day closer to the weekend. We'll say goodnight for a Tuesday. Special thank you today to Zach Harper, Richard Smith, Andy Larson, and Dave Fox. For any of the sound you missed from the show today, go to the website, which is ESPN700sports.com. Make sure to download our mobile app and take us on the go. Best way to listen to our station is that ESPN 700 app. And then for what we do in our space every afternoon for 4 hours, check out the podcast page. It is called The Drive with Spence Checketts. It's available wherever you get your shows. So subscribe, rate, review, say nice things in the comments, and give us all the stars. It helps. Reporter, I'm Spence saying goodnight. Have a great Tuesday evening. We'll talk to you on a Wednesday edition of The Drive. And as always, you can catch that right here on ESPN 700.